Hey, welcome everyone to the Schizo Podcast. It's Carlos Gomez. With us this week, we're gonna geek out a little bit. We're gonna go ahead and keep Charlie within the confines of his geekiness. Because
I
doubt it.
Hey, this week we're gonna bring in another 3D badass.
All right.
And Trammel. Welcome,
hello,
sir.
Hey.
So we're going to get a hold of Kent's resume and everything that he's been up to. But before we do that, let's go ahead and catch up with Charlie B. Williams III.
Oh, it's okay for me to talk now? It's okay? I can talk?
Hello, welcome. And also,
I don't like you.
Let's go ahead and introduce Jack Kasperzak.
Hello. This is going to be a fun time. Charlie's locked and loaded.
It's 3D month.
I had a joke, but I'm going to go ahead and leave that one alone because it was pretty gross last week. Not for Charlie. Not for Charlie. But hey, if you are watching live, go ahead and interact with us on the chat room. Otherwise, you can. That's right. You can get one outline at 408-382-48. International callers, please use 011-408-753-8248. With that being said, now it's time to...
Let's go over to the canvas here and let's get started. I believe every day's a good day when you paint.
Now, before we get into this, I'm gonna say there was a lot of things, or a lot of submissions this week. So it's gonna take a minute, literally a minute, to get through all of these.
Uh-oh. I didn't think it was that hard last week.
It wasn't.
Probably holiday.
Me and my fake Instagram accounts didn't have time to
produce. Google image search came up with empty on this one.
You got to fill Ken in on what this is.
But no, we did. We talked about it before you came on. But last week we did a zookeeper trembling in a maze.
And by we, you mean you.
And by yeah.
That makes sense.
I'll apologize on behalf of myself and Sketchstone Nation.
That's all I got. Moving on.
Looks good.
So there. Yeah.
You did it.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for participating this week.
Hey, but you got 77 likes. Lucky number 77. So
everybody normally does it though. You keep the face, buddy. Keep the face.
Yeah, me and 76 of my other accounts.
Nice.
All right. So with that being said, I should have.
All right. Let's pick a brand new one.
Let's pick a good one.
So normally, can't we have the guest choose the categories? So we have a random category generator.
All right.
Designed by yours truly.
Oh.
So we've got adjective, animal, character, action, style, and location, and we find that 2 or 3, generally 3, is the best amount.
Okay.
Then again, we had 3 last week, and
and
we had
so many people participated. So, as punishment, if you want, you could say 6.
Actually, the time we did all of them, we had a lot of submissions.
Yeah, a lot of submissions, and they were different.
So you never know.
All right. So you want me to pick 4, not give you 6, but a little more than 3?
It's up to you.
Oh, nice.
It's up to you.
World.
Anywhere from just any number.
All right. I like. Then I pick these categories, and you uncheck animal.
Okay.
No animal.
And then I want a style and location.
Nice.
I like adjective, character, style, and location.
Ooh,
okay.
I like that. Let's do that.
It's a good combo.
We'll see.
How about a careless taxidermist in a gingerbread house in Warner Brothers style. That's what I'm talking about.
I really like this, but I think we should. I vote to remove Warner Brothers only because we've done it before, and
people get scared.
I feel like it actually is really good as just a careless taxidermist in a gingerbread house.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one. I will say that. I'll second that.
And how about in a Bill Watterson? Yeah, that works.
That's fun. Bill Watterson's a little more unique.
Yeah, there we go.
We're going with that?
Yeah, we're going with that. Let's do it.
Let's go over to the canvas here and let's get started. I believe every day's a good day when you paint.
So since I'm in the middle of the ocean on an island, my internet may be wishy-washy, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So, so if I'm getting all choppy and stuff, my apologies. However, hey, I did want to talk about this real super quick. Did you guys happen to see what's it? Bobby Chiu started his own animation conference.
Yo, can we talk about this? Because this is interesting, right? Like, I feel like it's conference wars.
Yeah.
Yo, and we're luckily on the outside in.
Full on conference work.
Just to get you a little caught up a little bit, Kent.
Uh-huh.
So there's a bunch of different conferences, really good things for artists to go meet, be a part of the community, learn, talk to different other pros and stuff like that. But I feel like the last couple of years, there's been a couple of them where, like, you know, either the organizers and certain bigger name artists have had disagreements and it's spilled all over onto like YouTube and everything else. But then I feel like in response, people make new ones or they want to make it better so that like it's for all the artists. I think the good thing is that the artists get more conferences to go to and they pick and choose, but then it becomes which one do you go to now? Because I had another set of friends that we don't talk about this about. And they kind of brought it up. He's like, "Hey, wasn't that conference in response to this one?" I was like, and I just kind of didn't say anything and laughed it off. But like, because I know people don't all know about the conference drama, but yeah. I think it's interesting. We get more conferences at the spite of like other ones, but it's
right. Oh, interesting. I hear a little bit about conferences.
So this is okay. So we have to be somewhat careful when we talk about this because so let's say Ground Zero was never meant to be in direct.
Oh, of course, yeah.
It wasn't supposed to be like in payback for any.
Yeah.
Oh, of course, yeah. Bobby I'm talking on the outsider looking
directly related to how CTN allegedly treats their talent.
Yeah, I guess it should be like for people that didn't like CTN more so, and like it was. I could say it was a response to that, but yeah, for sure. This is purely my opinion, outside looking in. But it's based on all the things that have happened. It's interesting. But did you see the lineup though?
Yeah, it's a pretty sick lineup. I mean,
that lineup is amazing.
You can tell when he was saying, "I'm about to announce some fire." He wasn't joking.
Yo. Can we give a hand clap for Bobby too? Because that lineup is like a 2D artists, like amazing artists. Which I'm not.
Let's list some of them off. Do you got them?
Like you might know some of these kids. Like I looked at the lineup. I was like, all right, I don't care why he made it, but this is really like he really went to the bat phone and called in all type of stuff. If he could do this every year, it's amazing.
That's funny. So yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
How much is it?
Much luck to those guys.
Yeah,
I don't know. Where my bam notions.
You got the lineup, Jack?
I'm trying to find it.
I had the website, but I don't.
Hey Ken, what's your favorite event to go to as a 3D guy?
I mean, it'd probably be SIGGRAPH. That's usually the big one.
Yeah.
Nerd out together.
Yeah, fond memories of SIGGRAPH.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys still go every year over at CG Cookie?
No, we've
trying to get out there.
No, not every year, but it's slowly waned a little bit for us. It's hard to measure the value for like a CG cookie sometimes, but yeah,
cool.
It's fun.
Yeah, I like SIGGRAPH too. Last time I went, what was that 20?
That was about 3 years ago now.
Yeah, 2013, 2015 or something like that. But it made it even better because Carlos came down from the mountaintop that is wine country, and like took him all day, like literally 12 hours, I think.
I got crashed into and everything.
Yeah, I don't think you're supposed to take all day. How long was it supposed to take?
Generally speaking, you can get down there in like 6 hours, probably. It took me like 10 or 11 that time.
All right. Okay. I was like, but he was ready to go. He's like, you want to sleep? We can chill. We don't have to do anything. He's like, let's go. No, he went right back out the house. I was amazed.
11 hours. I got to stretch.
We went to one of the industry parties or whatever at night. It was fun.
Nice.
Looked like people are coming in on the chat. So shout out to Dave Atsy in the chat and Landon. They're all there. So hey guys, thanks for coming.
Whoever else is there, let us know.
Mm-hmm.
Long arm.
Shiloh's in there.
Oh, Shiloh's in there. Hey, Shiloh, what happened last week with that fun problem? Just saying.
Putting him on blast, don't make him feel bad.
He's like, I'm doing good. Don't quit on us.
Yeah. He's like, I'll show you. I saw the new one this week. Great. Shadow's an amazing artist, so it's cool. I like to stuff.
Yeah.
All right.
So we wanted to bring in Kent because we wanted to. There's some really cool things happening within the world of we have a blender, dare I say, genius.
Blender genius.
Ooh, wow.
That word gets tossed around an awful lot. We'll see if you mean it.
Yeah, like a nerd in fifth grade.
Way to put the pressure on Jack. Let's see if you mean it. That's a strong word. Mean.
Blender. I'm loving Blender. I'm not a user yet myself, but I'm very intrigued by what it's free.
It's free 99.
Yeah,
$3.99.
So if you don't know, Blender is a 3D program that's open source.
Longarm confirms it. He says, "Hey, you got to be a genius to use that program." So
hopefully after this, you don't think so. You come on in. Water's warm.
But the cool thing is that it's becoming a legitimate solution for storytelling.
Yeah.
And 3D modeling and stuff. And there's a lot of people that are using it for not just modeling, but to actually animate and actually create scenes and putting things all together.
Yeah.
And the reason we know Kent is because he works with our buddy Wes Burke, that's been on the show before at CG Cookie, cgcookie.com, which is a training website. Buy a membership, and like a couple days later, you're working at Disney and DreamWorks. Is that how it works?
Yeah. 3 to 4 days usually.
Results may vary.
Very. It depends on like how good you are. Drive. You might get it in 2. You know.
I didn't know Wes had been on the show before. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I don't know what episode it was, but he was on there. Yeah, we got him in there.
Yeah, he was on early on too. I think he was a double-digit guy.
Oh. Yeah. Like, is it crazy? Carlos ranked somebody where they were. Yeah, he was in the double digits.
No, he was 24. Episode 24.
He was in the 30s.
Wow. Episode 24, way back.
He was like founding.
And the reason I say that is because the show has evolved throughout the years, and people like Wes had to deal with a rough ass show.
I think it was it had a lot of potential. A lot of raw talent.
We had to iron out the wrinkles. We were dealing with the raisin.
Gotcha.
Well, you know, results may vary.
Yeah.
We figured it out eventually.
I mean,
Or
Jack
did we?
used to yell at people. He used to just belittle the guests. Jack, you got to pull it back.
Yeah, we got a couple of folks that just won't come back. So.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes the guests get like blocked from the chat and stuff. Like,
yeah. So like, you know, start fighting with the chat and stuff.
Oh.
Then it spill overs into Instagram.
What kind of show did you invite me to?
Yo, it's good. It's good. This will be good for you. Put hair on your chest.
So Ken, how did you end up working with Wes?
Let's see. So I got into Blender when I was at a studio in Texas called Real Effects. They're still there. Okay, you've heard of them. Awesome. Oh, yeah. I was there, and we had a slow period. So like it was always how do you make the best out of your time? People would practice sculpting, practice modeling, do extra skills or whatever. And I took it upon myself to start really taking Blender seriously. So I discovered CG Cookie along that route, and for probably a year, like got up to speed with Blender, and in conjunction with learning through CG Cookie. And eventually I was like, I mean, maybe tutorials aren't that, maybe it's something to try, I guess. And I did it, and it was with Blender. And Jonathan Williamson, who's Wes's partner, saw it and got in touch with me and started making tutorials for him for a few months. And then that turned into a full-time gig, and been with him for the past 5-6 years, something like that.
Yeah. So you started doing training at Real Effects. You started using CG Cookie just as a regular person because you really got into Blender. When did you knew you liked Blender, like that route? Or was it really just to try to?
Yeah. In college, I remember being fascinated. A couple of my friends used it. It was taught. Maya was taught, but like someone used it for laying out UVs because it apparently had good UVs compared to Maya. And I was like, wow, there's an open source version of 3D. That's amazing.
Yeah, I believe that. Yeah.
So that's where the seed was kind of planted. And then I don't know why I started taking it seriously at Real Effects. I don't know. I was curious, like what could it actually do? Like, could it, I'm paying, I could pay thousands of dollars for this software or do it for free. Like, there's no way you're going to get what you're going to get what you paid for, kind of thing. So I don't know. I was curious, very skeptical. And then I was able to do everything I needed to. And yeah, it stuck with me.
So was that the old Blender interface?
No. In college it was, and that was a bit of a pain.
Okay.
It was the new interface.
Where everything's at the bottom of the screen.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking like 2011, I think, 2012 when I started getting into Blender seriously.
Okay. Oh.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think? Because as Charlie's question started happening, I was thinking to myself, if I was a kid that wanted to get into 3D, is it a smart move to, instead of taking all that money and pushing it towards school, how about if I just get a really nice computer or a rig? What if I get a really nice rig, I learn Blender through getting a membership at CG Cookie?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was the other question.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Did I break up a lot?
Just towards the end for me, but I think I got the gist of the question. Yeah, I mean, we're definitely part of our like mantra. Our mission is to be an alternative to art school. And I went to art school. I went to Full Sail, and it struck me recently the fact that like we have more. When I was comparing back to how many hours I spent in lectures and labs, like we have more in like training hours than I spent in lecture time. And it was just like, holy cow, like we really have a ton of education here. And so, yeah, that's definitely part of our mission. We know art school is expensive, and we're obviously much less expensive than that, but definitely teaching professional level. Like we always want to teach that, distinguish ourselves from a lot of YouTubers, who don't necessarily teach at that level. yeah, definitely. We've seen a lot of great success stories from people right now. One of my favorite members right now, he's been with us for years, is like actively trying to move from the Dominican Republic to Canada to get his like career started, and he has the skills to do it, and he's like learned everything through CG Cookie, and yeah, he's kind of like just this awesome example of what it can do. So we're really pumped about him. So
nice, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So, okay, I didn't know if you were frozen or not. I'm looking at you. You couldn't tell. In the middle of the ocean. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just towards the tail end. His thing started breaking up, so I thought maybe I dropped off. Anyway, so it's going to be an uphill climb, but we're good. So, what was it that got you, Kent, into 3D?
I can tell you exactly what got me into 3D. Did anyone play Dreamcast?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a game called Soul Calibur for Dreamcast, and I remember being.
Oh yes.
Okay. Good.
I spent a lot of my life playing that.
Good. So did I actually, and I remember opening up the instruction booklet and seeing these character renders for the fighter profiles, and I was like, I mean, I have Microsoft Paint. And I cannot make it look like that. And I don't understand what is this medium? What is that? I know it's built in the computer. And like from that point on, I knew that I had to figure out how they did that, and never knew like what to search Google for. I mean, Google wasn't, I don't know how popular it was back then, but you know, like the terminology wasn't as common as it is now. So like for years, I just didn't know how to find what to search for. And then a kid in high school, a big time nerd, was making a video game. And he's like, I know you like to draw. Do you think you would like to make weapons, you know, like model some 3D weapons for my game? And all of a sudden I had a 3D program just given to me, and like, it never stopped. It was the thing that kept me up, you know, late into the morning sometimes, you know, when I should be sleeping. So yeah, it was just an addiction kind of passion that crept up on me.
What was that first program?
It was a Milkshape 3D.
Yeah.
Oh man.
What?
Milkshake 3D. You know what that thing was mainly used for? It's like to make mods for games, for like The Sims and like all those games that first.
That would make sense why he gave it to me. Yep.
That was like that. Yeah, I used that one. I was trying to make like some new furniture and stuff for Sims. I could never figure that out, man. That was
good.
Okay, say the name one more time.
Milkshape 3D.
Milkshake.
Milk.
Yeah. You're the first person that's ever known it. When I said
I was blank faced. I was like, "What?"
It's pretty terrible. It's pretty limited.
Yeah, I moved on pretty quick.
You're making weapons out of that?
Like putting cylinders together, crashing them together very poorly, but then yeah.
So that was your first one too, Jack?
That's hilarious.
Oh, I don't know. There was my brother actually gave me one because I was making like really bad knockoff films of like Star Wars and James Bonds with my cousins, and he was like, "Oh, you're gonna need some special effects for your Star Wars knockoffs," and he gave me this program called Super Goo, which
what? You guys are speaking of.
But it was like, you do?
Yeah.
But it wasn't really like a 3D program. It was like a plug and play like After Effects, but I can't even say After Effects. It was like filters.
Wasn't it like you put a picture in it and
and it could like distort it and it wasn't really effects. I don't know what I would have used that for.
I've never heard of any of these. These are awesome.
That was like the first introduction I had to like digital effects.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, my first introduction, I had a little internship, but like my first introduction was Bryce. So
some poser stuff.
So I was
with that.
I didn't get to do poser, but it was just Bryce, and I did an internship like 2 summers in high school of this little multimedia web company. But the other guy, their 3D guy basically, he went to Full Sail, like old school Full Sail back in the day. This is like 90s Full Sail or whatever, where they had the crazy hours, the 2 a.m. classes and stuff. I don't know if they still had them.
I did have that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So And he was modeling stuff in this program for companies and stuff, and they were make little videos. But his main program was Bryce. It was ridiculous, and I didn't know anything about until I left and got to school. How crazy it was that he was modeling in Bryce.
People were doing crazy stuff.
Like, and then like they were selling this for companies and stuff, and they would make decent little models for a media company in Indiana. Like, really, they're a web company, and they had like, but like, it was ridiculous. And like little banner ads they would do on the web back in the day, all in Bryce, like the primitives, and he's like modeling his butt off in Bryce. So and we had that. I had that in high school a little bit too. I for our video production class, video voice. I did a Pac-Man. Like I was the graphics guy basically, because I didn't have any good. There's no good programs. Like, you know, back how computers back in the day, it was like you got that nice Apple computer, or you had nothing else. Like the PC back in the schools, at least, were always old and ancient. So the only way I can work on a decent computer was to be in the video program of my school, and I didn't even really want to do that. But I was like, can I just do the graphics? And like I did a little Pac-Man animation in Bryce, and then it said video voice, and you know how Pac-Man revealed the video voice logo. It's like crazy, and that was it. But yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
What was yours, Carlos?
My first 3D program.
Yeah, because you went to school for 3D too.
Yeah.
Did you do anything before that?
Let me see. Back when Macromedia was still around, they had this thing called Macromedia Dimensions, I believe.
Whoa!
I've never heard of that.
Yo, this is the first show where like you're talking about 3D. I've never heard of 3 of these programs you guys are talking about.
Yeah.
And Macromedia, that's like the legit brand. I've never heard of that.
I remember Director. I don't remember like
so there was that, and then there was like other stuff that was, you know, you just like the super goo. The thing about super goo is like you can twist and turn all of these pixels, all the pictures, right? And then you can record it untwisting itself. And then you show that to people, and they're like, "Oh, just take my money."
Apparently.
You know what I think of when you guys are saying this? I think of the like old school like plastic toy that had like the ink in it, and you like smudge it around.
I mean, kind of.
Have you seen that? Have you know what I'm talking about? Like
sometimes
it's baby toys and stuff, and it's just like it makes the little swirls. Or like
no, you know, it was more
a sketch.
It was more like the little cardboard thing with the face, and you dragged iron filings.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It was more like that.
But it would never stay. You take 2 hours to try to get a mustache.
But
all type of nostalgia this week. It's crazy.
But Kent, when did you realize that like you could move on from just like obsessively making weapons as a fun hobby into like doing this for a living?
Oh yeah.
Or like schooling. I don't know. What was your next step?
Yeah. So that was the beginning of like high school. I was like 14, 15 when I first got into it. And I hit a ceiling pretty quick. I remember getting 3ds Max, the educational version, student version. And it came with this massive tutorial book. This was 3ds Max 6, I think. Massive, like Bible-sized tutorial. Yeah.
Those boxes were like...
yeah. I tweeted about it not too long ago. I found it at my parents' house. It's crazy how big that software was. Like 6 discs, you know, craziness. But I hit the ceiling pretty quick because like these simple tutorials did not take me that far. And so I kind of got out of it, you know, other high school stuff, sports and things got in the way. But junior year, senior year, you know, my parents were always pretty good about like, I think training me to do what I loved. Like I could always turn my hobbies or passions into like a career if I was smart about it. And I got Halo 2. I remember that being, I'm not a huge gamer, but like that was one that I played a lot. And I got the special edition with the behind the scenes, and it like showed how they made the game, showed the studio and all these artists and like, you know, building the game process. And I was like, that's where I need to get to. It's possible. So that led me through searching online for, schools, and that was the next step. I went to Full Sail for their program, and it was pretty straightforward. From then, like, it was all hardcore people, like it was all about the career, and it just made sense from that point.
And that was just their 3D animation program or whatever. I'm assuming there was no game stuff back then, so probably.
Yeah, they did have a game program. We started together and then split about halfway through the program. I went the computer animation side. Sometimes I wish I went together.
Yeah, so talk about that, because I never knew the origin of like what got you into 3D. I knew that you end up going into film, but since a 3D model in a game was what inspired you, and you were doing the mod stuff, what made you turn and go film instead of going the gaming route?
I haven't. That's funny. I do kind of overlook the fact that games is really one of the like starting points for me, one of the inspirations, and I didn't go that direction. I don't know. I haven't really verbalized this, but like, I think my brother was really into games. I hope no one knows him, but he kind of, didn't have.
Now he's a doctor.
Yo, did you say I hope no one knows him?
Yeah. I feel bad about that.
Rivalry at its finest.
Keep it going. This is great.
But he played a lot of games in high school and kind of missed out on some of the more social aspects. And so I think I had maybe a negative connotation of like the gamer in the basement, that kind of thing. So I don't know if that's what, again, this is kind of a new thought, if that kind of led me to go the other direction. But I mean, since then, like, gaming has only become kind of more important to me, both as an art form and like I've started playing more games now. And like my 3.5-year-old is starting to play some Mario with me, and I'm like, I want you to know this stuff and play with me. So yeah, they've only become more important to me over time. But I think that's what it probably was. I thought that film was the more prestigious direction. Having your name
and your hatred for your brother kept you from gaming.
Somehow we love each other very much. Somehow.
Yeah, try to clean it up now. PR guy off camera is like, you need to clean that up.
But he got into the game industry. He works at High Res Studios.
Back up. What? Really? I didn't know your brother was an artist.
Yeah. He went to college. He's 3 years older than me, so he went to college for music initially, and then actually went to Full Sail after I did, and has been working in the industry too.
Okay, Carl. So yeah, the rivalry is real. So we need to talk.
Low key rivalry.
No, that's interesting. I mean, even when we met, some of the really in-depth conversations we had has been on the whole real time and gaming and all that good stuff.
Yeah, you're right.
So it's so interesting to hear your origin now to be like that,
And it definitely helps. It definitely helps that the technologies are starting to blur. Like the gap between them is so small, ever increasingly smaller. So they're going to be like the same for too long.
Have you guys noticed that they're starting to shoot movies that make you feel like you're in a game? There's different, or even in a TV show, like they'll have the character. They used to have like the character look at you, but then you'd kind of see like the other person's head, but it's not like that anymore. Now they're like legit looking at you, and I'm like, you better go talk to whoever the hell's on that damn scene, because I'm not trying to have no zombies up in my house.
I got you getting nervous in the theater. I'm like, yo, stop looking at me. No, that's definitely interesting.
Yeah.
No, I just find it fascinating that like it was always there, but now it's surfacing to the top, because I knew you were really into games as the art side of thing.
Definitely.
I never knew about the Soul Calibur thing, but like how has that influenced how you teach now, and like the stuff you're teaching now? Do you see that as the next thing, or is that a big thing at CG Cooking now rather than just the film stuff?
We definitely
animation stuff like it used to be.
Yeah, the game stuff is definitely a bigger deal now. We've got Gonzo, a full-time Unity guy, with us, and our biggest goal is to like do a small game, but a complete game, and one that's actually fun to play apart from being training material. but then also have a complete training, curriculum to go along with it. I think that's our big goal. And we've tried a couple times, but it's hard to do all of that at once with a team of 3 people.
Yeah.
So games are hard to make, who knew?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm definitely getting more into games. I wish I had some more professional experience with it. I always feel a little bit bad about teaching something that I didn't have professional experience to back up.
Landon Wilson in the chat room says that his first 3D program was MS Paint.
Yes. I guess that was mine too then.
I made that up.
Okay.
To be fair, I asked them an introduction to digital art. Not just 3D.
See, this is how Carlos fights with the chat. This is
how he starts. Yeah, he stirs it up.
But Jack always cleans it up. Thanks, Jack. Thanks.
Well, my PR guy told me to clean it up.
He's like, yo, clean that up.
Whispering in my earpiece.
Got to keep that rivalry under wraps,
This just did. So now that we know you hate your brother, how do you feel about your parents?
How do I feel about my what?
Your parents.
My parents. We actually love each other very much. I was maybe a little too honest up front, but
same statement coming right back.
In order with what you're doing.
They were all for video game madness and 3D nonsense, CGI.
They were definitely into the CGI part. Cool. Since I never aspired to do the games, that's never what I claimed at the beginning. They love the idea of me doing animation and working on films and stuff like that. Yeah, they definitely thought that was cool. And I worked on one film that made it to theaters. It was a terrible film, but it was cool because they got to see it.
Was it called My Super Ex-Girlfriend?
Yeah.
That was Jackson.
It came out in 2013. It was called Freebirds, and it was a Thanksgiving based.
I feel like I remember that. Yeah.
Most of the world feels like but now
most of the world feels. Yes. Yeah.
Oh man. I remember it bugging me so much that hundreds of people touched this project for a 2-year span, and no one blew the whistle on it being bad. How does that happen?
Oh, it happens all the time.
Yeah, it was a rude wake-up call for sure.
Yeah. Have you not seen Chips?
I don't know why I thought it would happen to other people.
It's a really weird phenomenon. I think sometimes it's when they're in the process of making something, they don't, you're so entrenched in it, you don't have kind of an objective view of it, and you kind of lose sight of what the product is. Because the flip side of that is I've also been on projects that while working on it were fucking terrible. And then I saw it and I was like, hey, that was pretty good. It turned out okay. So I don't know. I feel like maybe you get a little blinded when you're in there, the directors or writers. I don't know.
That makes sense.
At the same time, how many young people were working on that film?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Sure. No, a ton. You mean first timers?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, a lot. That's true.
They're probably excited to have something 3D to work on.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Have your name in the credits. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. How many of those projects have we all done?
Yeah.
To get the foot at the door.
But you also have to think about it, I suppose, from a business standpoint. Even if the creators and money behind it is yeah, we know this is terrible, but it's only costing us $2 million to make, and we're going to make $8 million back. Why not? It's kind of I think to some degree there is a little bit of that business cynicism.
True. Mm-hmm. Yeah, very true.
Have you ever thought about starting your own film or anything like that?
Oh, yes.
Software is cheap these days.
Yes, absolutely. I feel like all CG artists, and Charlie, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but
all CG artists and Charlie.
honorary member of that group.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, we all want to make like a short film. I feel like at least a short film. I mean, Pixar shorts. So many people get their starts from like shorts. I feel like that's like the holy grail. Also, what's like maximum achievable by like a single artist. So I definitely have ideas for short films and stuff that I'd love to make, but just knowing that like it's going to take years of my life of like dedicated nights and stuff. It's always built up, but never actually really happened. But I hope one day I would love that to be the case.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. Like I think that is a goal for a lot of artists. I'm the same way, but I'm more so like I have visions of like really cool like vignettes and scenes and stuff like that. Never was the artist of thinking of like the script and like the story, but maybe more so because of the route I took, the story through the scenery that you're telling. So like kind of like one of those ones. Have you ever seen those really cool? There's been a couple really cool, like I guess they could still call them short films, where they're short films, but there's no real script to them. It's more like
it's like good imagery, like
you know what I mean.
Baraka.
Yeah,
remember Baraka?
Yeah. Like so, it's like just really badass imagery. Excuse me,
Baraka Obama,
the president. Yeah, just really good imagery and like to music or to sound or to a soundtrack that like is like really cool. And then like because there've been a couple of them in the past where like you couldn't even tell that they were actually CG. You know, especially some that have been done real time and stuff. You couldn't tell. They're like some like holy grails or something that been rendered in like V-Ray and a couple other software like that. That's just can stand alone by themselves. It's kind of like for 3D artists and generalists, they're kind of like holy grails.
Yeah.
Type thing. I can't remember that one. I don't know if you remember it, Jack. You said that one, but there was another one where it was like I think it was rendered in like.
Oh well, Baraka was a film. You're talking about like CG environment stuff.
Yeah, it was like it was a short film. It was done in like Max Maya. I can't remember what it's called, but I can see it in my head. It's very like ArchViz like, you know, a lot of like architectural visualization type stuff, but it was all CG.
Wait, the 3rd and the 7th? Is that what you're thinking of?
Yes, that's what. Yes, that one. You know, there's stuff like that. You know, I followed a couple other like artists that like.
Oh yes.
That have made their like way in like the film and stuff like that, where they've done that kind of thing. Like Ash Thorpe does a lot of those type of like those like short films where it's like not necessarily like there's a story, but it's all done generated through the imagery. Because I've never been one for like the crazy script writer or that character type stuff, but more from that type of angle. So yeah.
No, that's a good point. That's much more achievable. Like a lot of artists can kind of do that without having to worry about the script.
Yeah. It'd be nice to kind of tell something, because sometimes I think they get too abstract. I'm like, okay, I'm good. This is cool, but like I don't know what you're trying to say with this. So I still want the goal would be to try to still pervade some type of storyline. Do the image made a general progression. I think it gets too artsy sometimes.
Yeah,
cool, but I'm like, this goes on for 5 minutes and I don't know what's going on. And then there's this long introspective, like this is society and how it's like, all right, cool story, bro. Good.
Right.
On, you know?
That's a good point. It's a very good point.
So after you went to Full Sail and you got was Blender on their syllabus, or was that something you just continued picked up along the way, continued, and how did you segue out of school and what was next?
It was not on the syllabus. It wasn't taught there. It was they mainly taught Maya, and then one class, Softimage, was like to get your feet wet in a different program. But
oh, interesting.
Yeah, all the students there, like, I don't know, it was such an interesting experience. It was like you lived and breathed a 3D while you were there, or you failed. Like we started with 80 people, and then 17 of those 80 graduated on time. So it was pretty brutal. And like, since we lived and breathed it, everyone was coming in to school the next day with like, dude, did you see this new tool that came out? Or, hey, did you hear about this? Or here's a new technique. And at one point, Blender slipped in there because, you know, we're also
got it.
And so at that point, it like stuck in my, like, put a pin in it kind of thing. But I think I always thought of it like one day I'll come back to this because it would be nice not to pay for software. But right now it's just too easy to crack software, so I'm going to do that.
Yo, yes.
But man, college, yeah, it was rough.
It's good old days.
Yeah. I'll never forget. This is a little side story. But I'll never forget. A guy came to me in class one time and was like, "Dude, I heard you can get me ZBrush installed." And I was like, "Yes, this feels like a drug deal. I better stop this."
Yo, you got to talk about the way he came at you. Like, look, you need to chill out. What do you mean you heard?
Yeah.
Did Tom next to me right now just tell you that? Like,
I mean, if you're a police officer, you're supposed to tell me.
That's entrapment.
I heard the grapevine. There's 17 of us here. What are you talking about?
Oh man, wow, takes me back. But yeah, after college, I landed a job pretty soon after college in Minneapolis. It's called Make Visual. I'm not sure if you guys have ever heard of that one.
Make Visual.
It's a pretty small boutique studio. Charlie, have you heard of Tyson Ibel?
You told me about him before.
Okay, never mind.
Heard of him,
he used to win a lot of CG Society contests, like 10 years ago. But
what was his nick? Did he go by a nickname though? Because a lot of those guys on CG Talk went by like a.
Yeah, he definitely did, and I don't remember it. But he was kind of like a powerhouse.
3D Man 567.
That dude. Okay, cool. Yeah.
But I remember getting my first freelance job, and I got married soon after college, and thinking like, crap, I can't start a career with my cracked software, and I can't afford to buy it. So
yes, you can.
It happens every day.
I remember people talking about a blacklist, and like people get blacklisted for using.
Yo,
I've worked at companies that straight up use cracked software.
Somebody told you about a boogeyman blacklist?
Dude, they told me that. I've been telling everybody that since.
Like
Who told you that?
Wait. Like a blacklist that like the company knows you use their
cracked software.
Is that?
Yeah, like your name ends up getting around and you don't get hired because you're known as, I guess, a pirate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Right this week. You're known as a pirate. Sorry, I can't hire you.
I never got that list.
Yeah. Pull the list out. Can't. Your name's right there. You got Maya, right?
It better not be, because I stopped cold turkey. And Blender came in. That's where Blender.
I'm a blender.
Yeah. Yep. That's where
No. That's Kent Trammel. I'm Kent Trammel.
AKA
why I changed the
K3D 790.
This is why you changed your name. Got it. Running from the law.
Oh, wow.
You just say, no, that was my brother. I'm sorry. You must have confused.
There you go. That's the next
He's
phase.
a college student.
Wow. Well, so have any of you guys used Blender besides Charlie?
I've attempted. I've opened it several times.
Okay.
I tried teaching purely for grease pencil when I saw that not latest, but it was maybe like a year ago when they really updated it.
Mm-hmm.
And I got all super excited and I was like, okay, I'm going to learn this. Like 2-3 hours later, I was like, I can't do that.
Yo, you know how many times I said I can't do this when I first started, and I would just yell at Wes, like, yo, what's with the right click?
Oh man, we talked about that on the train to Kansas, like nonstop.
Oh, I was venting because I was really trying to like learn it to help you guys teach stuff, and I was like, this is just, and I didn't want to do the non-default, so I was forcing myself to try to.
Purist.
But no, the I think Blender and the new version of Blender, as we started to talk about this, has enticed a lot of professional artists like Jack, especially like Grease Pencil. Some of the stuff that you guys' community's been putting out, it's been really like. I showed the guys at work today, because I like to see some of the 2.8 stuff is starting to come out, and like another guy, that Alex Gleb guy,
Gleb
Alexander, yeah, he has a really nice like new material for like glass.
Mm-hmm.
And he's doing these really cool glass orbs, and he was using the cycles render, and it was real time, and he's just sitting there in Blender doing when in the node graph, and the node graph is cool. So my artists at work that use they're like, look at that node graph. That's a really nice graph. Like it's laid out really good. Like the way it looked, the new one, because of the UI. The UI looks better.
Yeah,
I try to tell you guys. I might cut out all these programs here so I can buy whatever I want. You just use Blender. No, but it's really like, people can't deny when they look at the quality of the render. That's not even really a real final render. It's like the in progress render,
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So it's really cool, and like Jack saw the grease pencil stuff. I think I've showed those different animations to every 2D person that really likes to do 2D and draw and stuff like that.
Right,
I think I sent it to Xantris guys too, Mike Henry. I was like, have you ever seen this stuff? This is looking really good, really cool. So I'm liking where it's going.
Yeah. So like, I'm curious, because I've been pretty ingrained in the entrenched in the Blender community for so many years now that like I don't know what the outside community, the professional community, thinks of Blender. So like, how are you hearing about this stuff? Are you staying active with Blender and like the news about it, or are you hearing it through your coworkers and stuff?
Who you talking, me?
Yeah, Charles.
Yeah. I come back to Blender every 3 or 4 months.
Okay.
Since I stopped working with CG Cookie, just to keep up on where it is, and then like, I took probably like a 6 months off from looking at it, but then saw it again when the 2.8 stuff started coming out. And then I saw it came up in my YouTube feed, because I'm always on YouTube. So I was like, oh. So I looked at it because I didn't see all the new UI updates that you guys had. Going, and the new hotkeys. So when I saw it, it just took me. I was like, wait a minute, it's finally happening. So that's where I see it from. And we have had other people like Danny Williams, who was on the show, Point Pusher. He's always looking at Blender from afar,
right,
and just kind of waiting for things. So I think a lot of people, from the people I've talked to in my circles, they see it, because sometimes when you see the end result, you can't deny if something just looks good, and that's the biggest thing that Blender has going for it. Like, if an artist sees that it looks really good, and that some of the tools are intuitive, then like, no matter what, they can't just be like, well, I'll just do that in Maya. But like, they gotta, like, they're going back to look at a tutorial a little bit and just kind of see what they have. Like, I think Jack can talk about when he first saw the grease pencil and how you can, like, draw in 2D, do frame by frame stuff, but then turn your camera in 3D, and like, it's still a 3D object too. It's this weird hybrid, And then, I can't remember what the new trailer, or not trailer, short is. The guy where he's in the Air City or whatever. It's a big chase scene.
Yeah, I think it's called Hero.
That to me was like, I don't even do a lot of 2Ds, hand animation like that, but I was like, man, let me get my books back out and look, because it was cool, because it's like, it's blending the two worlds of 3D and 2D. So it's always, people are always seeing stuff, and then the conversation comes up like that, or they're seeing the node graph or the compositor, and then they're like seeing the results. I'm like, it was Blender. Or the biggest thing lately was the movie on Netflix.
Oh yeah, Next Gen.
Next Gen. I watched that whole movie because I was like, I'm all about new animations and stuff. I watched that whole movie not knowing it was a Blender project.
No way. That's awesome.
I don't know why I didn't see any kind of rollout for it until afterwards.
Yeah.
And I was talking to people about it in general. And then I saw a random on my YouTube feed, probably because they knew I watched it, because they're watching you. Like, I saw a making of.
Yeah.
And it was like, that's Blender.
Yeah.
Besides if you like the storyline or not, but like, I was like, that's cool, and I started looking into that. So that's kind of how I see it. What about you, Jack? In terms of how people talk about it.
Semi similar. I mean, I hadn't been like willingly exploring it just until it. I think honestly it was like the grease pencil thing that kind of intrigued me, but the thing that started to sell it to me was, of course, seeing, like you said, seeing great finished projects, and I think Hero was a big one for me. But then Next Gen to see like a full-fledged film on Netflix was pretty impressive. And then there's another big one in production, Agent 327.
Oh,
you haven't seen that one?
Yeah, that's
that looks like even like a giant step above next gen.
Isn't that one an older one too, Jack? Right? That was the older one.
It's not. Well, they started it a while ago, but I don't think it hasn't been released yet. It's been this trailer kind of long time in the making thing, but like the quality is really nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, just seeing finished products and stuff like, oh wow, you can actually do this high quality professional stuff with something that's free. It's kind of, I think that's like its biggest selling point.
Right. And then Carlos, we talked to DaCosta, right? Because DaCosta did his film, so we had DaCosta on our show, right? And he did all his stuff remotely through what was the collective that helped him fund that or helped him push.
It wasn't Nimble, was it?
It was Nimble. Yeah, it was Nimble. It was Nimble. Yeah. So DaCosta Bailey is a guy we've had on multiple times. He was on the show last week. He did his short film in Blender too, and that was a different look too. Where it's like his style is a really cool, unique style with robots and stuff like that. But I love the way he did his art direction in that film. It's like kind of like, I don't know how to explain it. It's like it was kind of soft and toy-like, but like still felt very much 3D. Yeah. Like almost like the way they did their shaders in that one was really, really, really interesting too. So there's a lot of different things that
that one's called Sonny and Gerd for anybody.
Yeah. Oh wow! So you know that guy, the artist who made it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He's been on the show a couple of times.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I harass him all the time.
Yeah. he thinks his Pinterest game is better than mine, so I have to put him in his place.
Yeah.
Back and forth, but he really is kind of better than mine. But still, I like to think mine is amazing.
Yeah.
But it's cool. He's a great guy.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, it makes sense, I guess, that the results are what speaks the loudest, what gets people interested.
Mm-hmm. So as far as grease pencil goes, how does that work? Is it you have a marker that you're drawing on in a 3D environment?
As far as I know, yes. It started as just an annotation tool several versions ago, maybe even back in like the 2.49 days. And then, so it just people started realizing you could do so much with it. And as far as I know, like it's an object mode now. Like you can draw a stroke and then tab into the edit mode and like soft push it around, with a fall off. You can sculpt your lines and stuff. It's pretty strange. Like it's I was never too big into the 2D animation stuff. But like seeing it makes me want to, get back figure it out because it's so fascinating.
Because how are they doing their frames? Like, is it literally becomes its own little rig? Like it's just animated renderable.
Well, you can rig it. You can rig it with bones.
Wait, what?
Yeah, it's creating like on the fly geometry like per frame, and then because it's live, you can effectively do whatever you want with it. You can put deformers on it. You can rig it. You can all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
You can use it. You can like instance it and use it in like effects rigs. Like there's all sorts of crazy stuff you can do.
Does anyone else have anything like that?
Yeah. Well, Maya has had grease pencil for a really long time, but it's like it's not even remotely close to what this is. It's the Maya one is literally like an annotation thing that it saves it per frame. So in theory, you could go through and just draw some stuff bouncing ball and it would do it. But it's so simplistic that, and I think the Maya one saves it like per camera view. So it's not really like an object that you can orbit and use. It's sort of like a true 2D thing from camera. Because I think it utilizes like the image planes or something like that.
Right. Okay. Because that's the big thing. Like, when he did the 360 thing in Hero, like
because
like stop the camera like Matrix style, I was like whoa, like
I mean not just putting the drawing itself in depth, but you can actually give the drawing depth. You can have like a leg that like goes back and it actually has true depth, and effects can interact with it properly and all sorts of crazy stuff. It's really pretty cool.
I didn't know that part about it. Man, learn something new today.
If you want to see some
we got you.
Yo, I'm serious. This is ridiculous.
Charlie's like, how do you spell super goo?
Yeah, like
Still looking up
there's
super
so
goo.
much stuff right now. It's a milkshake 3D. Like, no. Imported in with like the Blender pencil. Mind's blown. Like, now what were you saying, Ken?
Blender pencil. Man, if you want to see some really crazy stuff with grease pencil, the Blender conference just happened like a couple weeks ago, and one of the concept artists who worked on like Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom.
You took my artist inspiration.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Well, go for it.
No, we don't show it to the end. But great, that's awesome.
Exactly. Good. We're on the same page. That's what's important. Yeah.
He's gonna have some Blender stuff. Okay, cool. But wow. So when did that happen? Because I'm just starting to like. When does that happen each year normally? So everybody knows about the Blender conference.
It's in October every year, and gosh, I just remembered why. I think it's the anniversary of Blender going open source officially. Okay. I think that's why it's in October.
Okay, because I'm just starting to see on the threads on YouTube more and more of these different. I just watched the Marvel one.
Yeah.
The Marvel production artist. It was very clickbaity, but okay. I gave it to him because I was like, wait a minute, you work where? You're in the. Oh, okay, whatever. I'll still watch your video, but like, he got me with the Marvel. It was like Marvel artists use Blender. I'm like, wait, there's somebody at Marvel using Blender on the Marvel movies? What? and then it was he's in the marketing department or something. I was like, okay, cool, that's fine. Whatever.
It was like just the title sequence or something, right?
Like, I see you, bro. No, it was like the brand guidelines, but they decide to do in a video instead. Gotcha. So a lot of like 2D like vignetted like images and colors. So it was interesting. They got me. But it's cool. It's cool. I don't fault them for it at all. No, but yeah. So anyway, long story short. I'm starting to see more of those come on my thread. So if you have more instances of like those really good talks, because it feels very TED style talks.
Yeah,
a lot of content to go through. So if you guys are looking for more information about Blender, probably the Blender conference that just happened and all the videos that are on YouTube right now, are the best source besides going to cgcookie.com. Are the best source for knowing the latest and greatest about Blender. And like, yeah, Jack's got something up right now. I'm clicking on it. So the Twitch people, I saw it. Yeah, that's another one. Who is that one? Ken or Jack? Like, what's this artist name? Because I've seen this like Fox a lot too.
Who was this one?
Daniel.
Oh yeah, so he's like the main guy who's been pushing, the main artist who's been pushing the development.
Is he the one who made it? Is he the one who made the?
He does so many of these like simple animated sketches, tiny like micro shorts. So yeah, anything Daniel Martinez Lara touches is really.
Oh yeah, Charlie. And then the other thing to consider is because it's a real mesh, you can UV it, you can texture it, something that you literally just drew.
It's crazy.
Can this be exported?
That's crazy.
I don't know. Probably.
Like, can you save it like as an FBX with animation?
Probably. I don't know. That's a good question.
That is a good question.
If I can get this like into Unity or like
as like sprites and stuff,
like VR. Well, no, if it's an actual object, I'll bring it in. I'll treat it like it's a character that's been rigged.
Oh yeah.
Like
I mean, hell, at that point, if the way it's messed up, I can bake it down to a limbic or do a bunch of other things. But I'm wondering because that could be like, can you imagine a game made with this? But like, well, they did do something like this. It'd be like doing Cuphead, guys, right?
Right.
It'd be like with Blender, but probably way more control instead of like the traditional every single frame you're drawing. Because
right.
Oh, this is so interesting with the grease pencil just by itself. Because that guy, I've watched that guy's stuff, and I love the fox. It makes me feel like, oh, Carlos is your favorite animation. Robin Hood. It makes me feel like the Robin Hood. It's one of Carlos's all-time favorites. That fox is maybe that's why he did it. I don't know, because that fox also makes you feel like, what is it, Zootopia and all the other ones. Which I think that's maybe where he was going for that one. But whatever. But yeah, this is cool.
So now that we're looking at Jack's computer, Isn't Toon Boom or to this? Like the 3D cameras and the environment and the different layers, the different levels.
Yeah, Toon Boom does have like a pseudo 3D setup. Definitely, you can do layering in a 3D camera, but obviously it lacks a lot of the true 3D aspects that Blender has.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's just like a matter of quote unquote. Yeah, it's not cheap. Toon Boom's pretty expensive, but then there's also the argument that it's a matter of kind of techniques if you care about like the way that each software handles drawings. Like some people really like the way that Flash used to draw lines, some people hated it, and like Blender obviously is generating their strokes in a very specific way, and then kind of not just the feel that it creates, but what you can actually do with that output. Like one might be vector, one is like this is geometry, so there's also that type of thing to consider. I mean, I guess you could look at that and say that's pretty minor, but it depends how technical of a person you are and what you want to do with that.
Definitely.
Yeah, when they do the whole like 3D to 2D stuff like this one, I think I've seen this one before too. I love how he drew over the environment, so now it all mixes, but technically he had it all laid out already.
He's literally using it as like a layout program. Like he's using Blender to build himself some lights and get himself 3D moving cameras backgrounds, but then he rotos over it and he does his character 2D, but all in Blender. Like he never really leaves Blender, which is pretty cool.
The cool part about it is like, and like you guys know as 2D artists, you're like, I don't want to draw that shot like that. so like the whole like having the camera and being able to have an actual camera in the scene too, to get the forced perspective that you want, and then just draw over it like as a guide. It's all there, but it can be changed on the fly. Mm-hmm. Oh, we just that needs to be a doorway there now instead, or whatever. It's cool. Awesome.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
So what made you transition from reading about Blender and going to CG Cookie and learning Blender to being on CG Cookie and teaching Blender?
CG Cooking.
Yeah, it is kind of a jump. And I mean, it is kind of an evolution, because like I would have been one of the ones to kind of be hyper skeptical of Blender, when I had like my Lightwave, 3ds Max, Moto, all of them installed just because. And I remember testing it. I was like, I'm going to do one project, a portrait. It has to have subsurface scattering, high resolution sculpting, high resolution textures, and render it, as realistic as possible. I'm going to throw everything I can do at it and see if it crumbles. And it was one project, and at the end of it, I was like, I mean, nothing stopped me. I had to learn new buttons, new terminology, like any program, but everything I needed was there. And so from that point, it's like, well, I'll do another project and then another project, until I got to the point where it's like, I've never needed to go into another program since, including ZBrush. Like that was the one program I did buy after school, a big sculptor. And I've not had to use it since then, So from that point, I just use Blender all the time. And I mean, there was, in conjunction, why I ended up at CG Cookie. I remember feeling like I was disappointed by the inequality of the movie that I worked on, because that was the big goal to get to. Work on movies, then you've arrived, and it's only good from there. I was really disappointed with it, and then also like it felt very creatively like a vacuum, and I was kind of like an Etch-a-Sketch that the art directors, twiddle my knobs, and I give them whatever they want, and I don't know, it was kind of confining.
They twiddle their knobs for free?
Do what? Twist them for...
No, they paid them. It's cool.
No, yeah, they paid me. But I remember thinking like, I want to be creative and have some freedom there. So maybe if I create my own projects and document the process via tutorials, I don't know, maybe something will happen, and it did.
So you were doing tutorials first before CG Cookie? Did you build up a pretty good following with that, and then moved into, and that's how Jonathan found you?
No, it was really
documenting your process because you were just documenting.
Yeah, it was really just one big course I wanted to do of that bust project. I did the test project and then was like, well, let me teach everything I just learned. And because at the time I did think like, I don't think there are that many professionals who are taking Blender seriously. So I'll try and teach a very serious, like high-end workflow with Blender, and maybe that'll be unique. And so it was like 4 videos into that course, releasing them once a week or something, however I could do it in my spare time. And Jonathan contacted me in the middle of that first course and was like, hey, can we talk about, I think we transitioned, like he paid for the videos I'd already done and then paid me for the rest of them.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And yeah, it was with him ever since. So it really happened pretty quick. Yeah.
And just a little stat out there. Do you know how many videos you've done to date?
Oh my gosh, no. I know my biggest course was 19 hours total duration with like 40, almost 50 individual videos, some of which were like 45 minutes long. Yeah, that was the biggest. That's like my peak achievement, I feel like, as a teacher of tutorials.
And the reason why I say that is because like I don't think people understand like the amount of like content that CG Cookie puts out. So if you're looking to pick up Blender or even learn sculpting or learn real sculpting, because they have a bunch of different other courses over there, like that's just one course, they really pride themselves on the amount of content and the amount of time he's talking in front of a camera, at a high quality, they're even down to like, how they're speaking, how they're getting to the point, not saying a lot of and all the stuff you might deal with on YouTube, that you won't get that. You won't get that at CG Cookie. It's straight to the point, and everything that you don't have to really fast forward, anything like that, like you normally would do with tutorials, which I can hate at times, But no, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, no problem. But it's like a lot of content. So I was like, maybe through one of you guys' summits, you guys have kind of threw that stat out of like, this many. You've done this many videos, this many hours of content.
Oh man, we did do total. How many total courses we have on the site? I'll see if I can find that. But I do have that stat, but not me specifically. But yeah, thank you. I mean, we do pride ourselves in a ton of content. We try and churn it out a lot. So thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I think it takes a lot.
And how is that like? Because we know Wes, and Wes is Mr. Hustle, has always been Mr. Hustle, Mr. Idea, and Mr. Follow Through with ideas too. So you have to be careful when you hang out with someone like Wes. But you coming into it, and Wes kind of had his small business type of thing. Was there any trepidation on your part as far as getting into your current situation? Or did you say, I get to work from home? Cool, I'm in.
It definitely was. I knew how small they were. And it's interesting. I haven't thought about that in a long time. But I remember thinking, so I left on really good terms with the company that I did leave to join CG Cookie. And so I guess I thought, like, if this doesn't work out in 6 months, I could probably come back. So that was part of it. And I continued to do freelance with them still, like it's still open between us. So I think that was part of my backup plan. But I don't know, Wes and Jay, like they definitely treated me like this very legitimate company, and with benefits, the great benefits and stuff. Like the Wes is a family man, and like it shows, the way he takes care of us. So yeah, and it's never faltered since then. So yeah, that's a good point. Maybe it was ignorance, but at the time I wasn't that worried about it.
It was like, ooh, my big break again.
Oh, I haven't thought about this in a long time. It's funny.
The probing questions. We're gonna make you think.
I like it.
So, as far as Blender, when you first picked it up to Blender today, what are some of the things that you can say to entice people to take another look at Blender?
That's a good question. I kind of wanted to ask you guys this too, because being in it so long, you kind of forget, like anytime I teach a Blender, a basic course, like a beginner's course, I have such a hard time remembering back to when this button didn't make sense to be here, or when the 3D cursor didn't make sense, or right click. Well, I always did left click select, but it's hard to remember back to that point, other than what I would tell them, because I've evangelized it enough, especially when I was at a professional studio using it, everyone else around me looking at me like, why are you doing this? And being like, look at the results, like give it a shot. I'm telling you, I'm showing you. So I've definitely evangelized it a lot. But the idea, the debate of like whether or not it can do all the highest end stuff is so beyond me. Like I've had it so often, and it's been beaten to death that like I don't think of using anything else. So like if someone comes to me with that, I would just say like, look at the results. They're out there and they're plentiful and they've been building up for years. Like if you don't want to spend a lot of money on your software, and you don't want limitations, if you want to be able to sell your art for nothing to use the tools, like give it a shot. It can do that. It's been doing it for a long time. So along those lines, I wanted to ask you guys, like, did Blender strike you as more complex than like a 3ds Max or a Maya or whatever your favorite like commercial package is?
Certainly not more complex. I think it was more of a, well, the interface was a big struggle for a while, but you know what? But to be objectively fair, I mean, looking back, you know, from when you first pick up Studio Max or Maya, they're all super intimidating. They're really dense UIs that have a lot of functionality, and especially if you're not familiar with 3D in general. They're all really intimidating. So it's not entirely fair to say it has a bad interface. It's kind of hard for me to even say that unless it was my first, you know, I'm just comparing it to ones I already know, right?
Definitely.
So that's not necessarily the right metric to use. But I think the other big question is like, okay, fine. So it's a good 3D robust program. It has all these features, but you know, is the output quality there? And as we've been discussing, clearly it is at this point. But I think for a long time there was a question of, is this just milk-shaped 3D?
Yes. Yeah.
With the super glue plugin.
Yeah, with the super glue.
Names.
And I think just from my standpoint, coming into CG Cookie and starting to learn and then just doing the whole evangelism for on the ground, you know, in person, because that was like my whole goal when I got there is that like CG Cookie had a really good base online, but they weren't really in person. So I started going to libraries and schools and after school programs and all that good stuff.
Right.
So my whole thing that I would yell across the West all the time was the hotkeys, and I didn't think it was like lacking, because after I got into it, I gave it the hard look while working with you guys. Right. But it had to like convince me, because I was like, yo, I'm here. Wes is pretty cool. We're best buds. I believe in this company, but I gotta really see if this program's really good enough. You know? And he was like, yo, talk to Kent. He'll show you some other, he's a 3D guy. Like, you know, I was like, okay, cool. I can talk to Kent, but you know, it's not going to save you if this program sucks. I'm just telling you right now, these are conversations I would have with Wes. Like he's like, no, it doesn't suck. I was like, okay, cool, but these hotkeys are atrocious. Like I just want to tell you, if we can get the hotkeys right, if you get the interface right, I always felt that held it back.
Yeah,
right? Because I couldn't, because I would get people to try it, right? Mm-hmm. I would get people to like look at it, and then like they would do the thing that Jack did in the first 3 hours. Like, okay, cool. Yeah, this little cursor thing keeps showing up in front of me while I'm kicking, you know, so that it'd be little things. And I went through that same process too of like, oh, this sucks. You know, like I don't know how long it took me at first to do that chess piece and all those other things. And then I started seeing that like, well, if this just gets better and better, and the biggest thing that got me was the iterations, right?
Yeah.
So how much it was getting updated. So I couldn't really like So then in my head I said, okay, I think you just wait, because I think they see that like it's a hot mess a little bit in terms of like how it's laid out, you know. But they understand. But they spent so much time and money, not money, but like time in like proving that it can do this stuff.
Yeah,
because it was set up through the foundation, and it's just me being totally honest. Like they were set up through the foundation, all these amazing short films, and they were great. But then I was like, but where's those hotkeys though? And that's like, you know, like you got to get there. Those guys are Blender gods, as I would call them. Like they're good, they're awesome. Like this dude worked at this other place, but came over. Well, that's because he just thinks differently. He's awesome. That's how I used to think as an artist. But then I said, like, if they can just figure out the user experience, because like from what I do now with the experiential stuff, think of like the artist experience. And I think something happened in the last 3 or 4 years. Like they thought about it even more, where there's like, if we can just get it to be like all the other ones, right? Not saying that you have to turn it into, because they had the hotkeys, like the version for Maya and the hotkeys version for Max, but it wasn't the same. It wasn't as powerful as if you can learn the default, right? Yeah, so that gets thrown out the window. But if you can just make it like the other programs, in terms of like ease of like getting into where people like the unsung rules of like the left click and or the tabs like Maya has, like I feel like it feels more like a Maya now in terms of like how it's laid out. Yeah, it's not Maya, but it feels like more like a Maya that has some stronger features, way stronger features in a bunch of different areas. Because they've like said, okay, cool, we're gonna put you in the compositing section. We're gonna give you a sculpting section. There's just a really quick tab at the top that says sculpting. Click on that. Now you're instantly sculpting. You know, instead of having to try to find that hotkey where you hit C plus 5 plus D and then you get to the sculpting, section. So now because I talked to a producer about this a couple weeks ago at a meetup, and now he's like, well, if everything is changed, like you said, if there's tabs there, if Carlos can open up Blender 2.8 and click on the sculpting tab, and then just instantly start sculpting, then that's like half the battle. You don't have to know all the hotkeys. He can just read and get to where he wants. Right. Yeah, I can get up and click on the animation tab, and it takes him straight to where the grease pencil is. Well, before that was half the battle. Jack will spend an hour looking for like how to change the left click or whatever he was doing. You know what I'm saying? So if you make the layout similar, but still be host to it being Blender, it being its own thing, then why wouldn't you, from a financial standpoint, switch your studio over or like, work on this yourself as an artist, in your spare time? Because you can, so just getting the user experience a little bit better. And that's why I wanted you to come on. That's why we wanted to have some other Blender artists come on in the next couple of weeks and stuff like that, because of the barometer of like, it's similar. It's like some of the same things. There's some things in Softimage that's similar to Maya, that's similar in Max. There's some hotkeys, WSD, how to switch between your transform, rotate, and scale. There's some things that are just kind of universally the same language. And like Blender understands that now. Right. And that's why the future, I feel, is really bright for it. So there's no excuse at this point, Right. For artists to pick this up in the evening, and get stuff, or for whole studios, especially if you feel like those studios are starting out, and you need to like save money and stuff until you get that backing or whatever. Like, why not try Blender? Right. Yeah, that's my big thing.
What's the support like as far as if you do have a studio and you do want to follow up with Blender? Does the Blender community have like a some sort of, I don't know what it would be called?
You're thinking like
marketing, something like that?
Like does the Blender Institute or the Blender Foundation rather have like a marketing branch to get into studios? Is that the question?
No. So for example, like DaCosta worked on this short film.
Okay.
And I helped him with his website and blah 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 blah. So I got to see the process happening, and point was pushing the film when it was done, and he was he was pushing it to try to get people to see it, and going to like different art festivals and stuff, animation festivals and stuff. Does the Blender, what'd you call it, community or
institute?
Institute? Is there anything that they do to help convince people to use Blender?
Oh, I see what you mean.
You know what I mean? To help push
it. Yeah.
So for example, I might have an idea for an animation, and I'm trying to figure out what to use, what tools to use. And Blender being free is very attractive, but it's not going to do me any good if I can get some kind of push, some help to push the film from someone else.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And if the answer is no, there's nothing like that, then it is what it is. I was just trying to figure out, because there might be some people that have animation ideas, and money might be an issue, but might not be an issue. But if there's help, to help push,
help market them and like promote and stuff like that, which I don't know if there's a sex,
even if the Blender Institute just sends them like a handful of Blender stickers or something.
Oh yeah. And so as far as I know, there's nothing like that. And one of the big complaints we hear from like a professional studio environment is that there is no official support for Blender. So there's no one to call when you have an issue like, hey, this add-on or this part of the program is not working the way we need. And there's no one to call other than the internet of hobbyists and, whoever uses Blender. And I mean, Wes has said before, like, if a company wanted to step up and be the official support for Blender, like that would be a pretty big business. But the Blender Foundation does not want to be that. They do not want part in that. Yeah. And so my impression,
I don't blame them, because that's
it's a full time. That's a whole other career.
That's the world of art.
It's weird that that's how it is, but like that's kind of like, is that the nature of open source? Like I don't
somewhat. Yeah, I think that's a big
is that the one thing that's hurting? Would you say that's the one that's hurting Blender, Kent, in terms of that? Until somebody says, okay, let me make this structure and we'll be it and hire a bunch of gurus. I don't know.
So it's interesting. Now, I am not an authority on this, and I'm giving my opinion. I've met Ton, the leader of Blender, like the original creator and stuff.
Yeah.
I've met him once. I love the guy. He's awesome. Of course, we would kind of all think he's pretty great, but my impression of like the Blender attitude towards the world is like, we're going to make a great tool at our pace, what we want it to be. Use it if you want. But I do not see him when he goes to SIGGRAPH and he has talks with Pixar, and he has behind closed doors meetings with these big companies, big studios. Just hearing him talk about it, he's not there like, what can we do to get into your studio? What can we do for you to use us? I almost see him being like, what can you do for us? Like, can you bring open subdiv to Blender? Pixar, and it's an intriguing perspective, because I don't see him trying to hustle Blender. Maybe he did in the early days. I don't know. I kind of missed like when it went open source and when it was essentially bought by the community to be made free. I missed that time, but like ever since I got into Blender, it seems like whoever does invest into Blender seriously ends up realizing it's a quality product. And come if you want, but don't if you don't want to, is kind of like the attitude I get. And it's just naturally been building kind of organically.
I definitely think that's an interesting standpoint in terms of like, yo, I want to talk to Pixar, but I really want you to get this into Blender. It's all he definitely, from what I've seen just from looking around the industry, is that like they always try to push to get the same type of tools, the same type of renders, in Blender. And every time I hear about a new Blender render or something that's like offering a Blender version, I'm always like, man, how did they get that going? Like that's a cool thing, or the open subdiff would be, it's great, or like the Alembic support and the updating of the exporters for FBX and all that stuff. Because like even programs that I use like Cinema 4D and stuff like that, up until R20, which is this year, their FBX like exporter was garbage, compared to Maya and like the other ones that, so like for Blender to have a better one and it's open source and like they've kept up on it. Maybe that's just a testament to all the programmers around the world that are like constantly updating it. But like that definitely seems interesting, because doesn't Blender have support for RenderMan also?
Yeah. There's if you go to, I think, RenderMan's website, like they have the Blender plugin for the render engine.
Interesting. It's crazy. Yes.
Yeah. And like Intel was the sponsor for the Blender conference. So like, I mean, they're providing processors, and like NVIDIA provided so I don't know. It's like I feel like Ton set it up to be like, we're going to create a great product and they will come to us if they want to get in on this.
Huh. Interesting. That's an interesting way. And they are.
And if you want customer service, you can get 3D Studio Max for like $3,000 a month.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
My more. Yeah. But that's interesting, because they are coming to you guys. That's a big thing. Was that the first time that happened? A big name company like that sponsoring the conference?
I can't remember. Today I was watching some talks to catch up with those, and I just saw like on the beginning of the slide, it's like brought to you by Intel or something.
Wow. Yeah, that's cool.
And but no, Valve was the biggest like single donor a few years ago. They donated big time to the development fund.
Oh wow.
Who else has been in? I mean, NVIDIA. Oh crap! I'm trying to think. So no, it's not the first time. Periodically, we get big players, and this has been the case, for going back years. But like, it's definitely gaining steam, and it's happening more. So it's cool. It's definitely cool to be part of that. Like, one of the guys, a bigwig at Epic Games, like has been working with us a little bit, and like he thinks he's worked at Disney, he's worked at like DreamWorks, he's worked at DICE, like he's worked at really big game and like computer animation places, and like he thinks Blender is gonna take over in a sense, like in the industry. It's just a matter of time. Now he's just one guy, I guess, but like to hear that from someone who has decades of experience at the biggest places, it's like, that's cool.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely think it's only a matter of time before it becomes a even more valuable player in terms of like, when you rattle off programs,
right?
Because like I said, with the new version of 2.8 that's coming out, and I don't think they've announced when it's coming out, but I know you can download the experimental build right now. Try it out. It's the beauty of open source. You can download that now and keep working with it. But in that case, what does that mean for you guys and mean for CG Cookie now with the new update? We've been talking about this new update, but like, let's talk about it a little bit now and say what that means, because I'm sure you guys have to do new training and all that good stuff. So what does 2.8 mean to you guys?
For sure. It's we'll have to re-record like all of our foundational courses, definitely, and so there'll be a big rush for us personally. Like, we have bad memories of 2.5, because I think when it was a year delayed from when the first date was set, like it's going to be released. So Wes and Jonathan, that was the first big course that CG Cookie did where they took pre-orders, and so like they had pre-orders and a year delay on this massive 2.5 course, so you can hit the ground running as soon as the new software is out.
Oh my god!
So like sending emails to all these people like, I'm so sorry, here's this quick little tip video, like bear with us, it's coming, but they keep changing it. And so we have bad memories of them missing their targets. Right now the target is, in the talk I listened to today, tentatively July. So I would not be surprised if it's summer. And so whenever we get a clearer understanding of that happening, then we will put all our effort for like a few months leading up to the release to have all new foundational courses. And then after that happens, slowly just record everything with Blender. Not really re-record. I don't know if we're going to re-record existing courses. I would just rather make a new one that covers the same topics. But yeah, it's gonna change quite a bit. And from my perspective, I was a little bummed going into it because it's like, I mean, I have to just reteach stuff that's already been taught before, just because the button is different and it's in a different place or it functions differently. So, as a teacher, I'm definitely not looking super forward to that. But as a user, I'm super pumped for it being a better interface. So conflicted.
And have you used it? Have you used the new one much? Like what does it mean for you then personally then as an artist? Like what do you like best about the new interface and the new setup and the new direction?
Yeah, I think it's sexy, man. I think it looks beautiful. It's got this awesome dark interface. The icons look prettier. So when I first opened it up, I definitely had a feeling of like, okay, for the first time, this feels like a legit 3D commercial software. Like we're indistinguishable anymore. And you're right. Like I think they have known that the interface is maybe one of their weakest points because the two big updates, 2.5 and now 2.8, have all been like pretty concentrated on user interface. So, being kind of, I feel like an old person, like a geezer, does want to change his ways. But like, I don't like some of the new changes, some of the core hotkey changes.
Yeah.
So it took me about a week to really like fight against them and then be okay with it. But man, the EV engine, like this is probably going to only mean something to you, Charlie, but like having real time, very convincing renders is a game changer.
Yeah, talk about the EV engine for the guys that don't know in the chat that don't know what EV is and what that means for Blender and how that came about. Yeah,
definitely. So there was I don't know if it was a phenomenon, but when PBR came out, and let me know if I ever get too nerdy, but for modern video games, like they look very realistic now with reflections and like motion blur and physically accurate lighting and all this stuff, and that's based on primarily, and Charlie, you can correct me if I'm wrong in anything, but it's based on this system called PBR, and it's physically based rendering. And it enables not perfect for anyone who uses like legit rendering that takes like 4 hours to render a single image. That it's not perfect, but man, is it convincing, and you get it in real time. So that's a game changer. All of a sudden, an animation, you don't have to sit all weekend and let 4 computers render on your 10-second animation. All of a sudden, you can render it, in a very short amount of time, and it looks great. So like that is a tremendous update. That's industry standard. You see it in like Marmoset. You see it in Unreal Engine, and Unity's got their own version of it. So for Blender to catch up and to be able to like not only visualize a model, but to build the model in that engine, that's different. Like you can't, as far as I know, you can't model anything in Unreal. You just see the final product put together and assembled. But to build it from scratch with all of that lighting involved, and that's kind of cool.
Yeah, and that's one of the biggest things that like other software haven't really done yet. Everybody's been doing the visual route. So with any game engine, it's like a basket. You put stuff into it and you look and see how pretty it looks, right? And then there's been other programs, that's moonlighted with the notion of like, making things look good while you work on them. And then up until now, the way to do that, if we're talking about film, in that instance, is like have a nice renderer like, V-Ray or Redshift. These are third-party renderers that get added onto your 3D program that you're using, but they're also GPU based. So based on how many video cards you have in your computer, guys, like it allows you to like hit render, but then still be able to move your model and see it in a pseudo real-time fashion. It's kind of blurry. And if you let it sit there and let it cook a little bit, it gets nicer and nicer. It goes from being blurry to more crisp. But as soon as you move the camera again, it starts to re-render. So that's been how a lot of film guys and a lot of CG generalists and stuff like that, and motion graphics guys view their stuff. They've been able to do really cool stuff. They're really fast engines like Octane and Redshift. They're really fast. Now, in corresponding to that, you have like Blender and you have like game engines like Unreal and Unity, where the viewport is what you see is what you get. So Blender had a great idea of importing the game engine, because they've always had a game engine even since we talked about old games back in the day, or old software. Old versions of Blenders had this game engine in Blender for a long time that I felt like no one ever used. Even in the 2.5 era, no one really used the game engine. Let's be honest. Some of you Blender guys out there did, but no one's really using that game engine.
Not really. Yeah.
And like, whoever thought about this, I don't know how this gets. Maybe you have insight into this a little bit. I don't know who thinks of like, let's just update the game engine and then integrate it into the viewport, so that like people can be working on animations, but also have the luxury of what game artists do when they want to see something right away. I think Maya had a what is it called, Jack? Like viewport
2.0,
but it's more rendering still. It wasn't really good, like it was like, wasn't there. Like they were trying to
that thing's got a long way to go.
Yo, I love Jack. Yeah. So like it wasn't there, but like when I heard about Eevee,
no joke, for like the past 5 years, every studio, every project I'm on, they're like, let's use viewport 2.0, and then like within like 5 minutes of the artist using it, they just switch back to the old one. They're like,
it's like it's legit too long to see anything, or the crashing with Maya or whatever.
Half of the stuff just like barely works. It's kind of a joke.
Yeah. So here comes Blender, open source, that said, hey, we had this game engine. Let's throw programmers at it. I feel like they just throw hundreds of programmers at pieces of soft parts of Blender, and then let's update it, get it PBR ready, and then like, bam, now you have a true viewport that is real time, that like you see what you're going to get. You can even, if you're willing to just like play it in real time in your viewport, it looks great. And then if you hit render, it'll look the exact same way, or it look even better. So it's like there's no guessing. There's no guesswork to like what your stuff is going to look like.
Yeah.
And like that's great. Like that thinking, like when I went back into that user experience thinking, that's amazing. I don't know why Autodesk and all these other people do.
Yeah, I've wondered that for a while. Like we have like hardware and GL and all these active real-time renderers, and like why these other big players haven't adopted like a more accurate live view. But the only thing I can think of, is it comes down to the stability of these software builds, is whereas like an open source one has that freedom to kind of break it down and rebuild and try something new, and like it's all just like organically growing, right? It's based on the programmers that are available, whatever the foundation has as resources. I mean,
right.
Whereas something established like a Maya, change that too much and you piss off a lot of studios. And,
And at what point are you introducing way too many variables?
Oh, totally. Yeah. I mean, that's what I talk about. Like, that's part of the reason why so many studios don't bother using 2.0, viewport 2.0, because it's buggy, and like we're not going to deal with that. We got a production to do. We don't have time to deal with a buggy thing. Let's just go back to the old one.
And the optimization part on Blender part, just another thing with Blender. Like one of the things that Wes made me do a long time ago when I first was like trying out the software, and Kent, you could talk about this too, was like I can run Blender off a thumb drive still. Like still with all that new stuff.
That's so cool.
About, yo, put it on like a 5 gig thumb drive. You're good. You put your work on there and Blender and take it with you. Like
so
I don't have to install.
Let's put that in perspective. I dare anyone to try to run Photoshop off a thumb drive.
Well, can't you run it on the cloud now?
Like Kent, when we took that trip, right? Yeah. We was using Blender on the. We had it just. You don't have to install it; it just runs out of the folder that you have. So
That's
literally, I had to get used to that. I just had to put the folder.
I love that you guys talk about this trip like it was some like team building retreat. When we run the trip, I use Blender off a thumb drive. It
was. We went to Jonathan Williams' house, and Jonathan lives in where? It was Kansas.
Yeah.
I've never been to Kansas.
Didn't even know where we were going.
I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know if I'd see people like me in Kansas.
See?
But I went.
It's sounding more and more like a retreat.
It is a retreat. And We had Kansas barbecue. It was great. And we just talked a lot.
Everyone got a CG cookie thumb drive.
Right. No, and the cool part about it is like you talk your butt off in general on those trains. I've never been on a train, like with the observation deck and everything. And like there's not much to do when you're on your way to Kansas. So I'm talking Blender. I think that's what Wes wanted. I think that's why he did that. If you're in a train, if you're in a plane, whatever, you're up and down. Right. You're on a train. We're gonna be on this train, and Charlie gonna learn Blender. No, but like I don't know how they do it. It's still programming magic that they can like have it so small. Like they've added so much stuff.
Yeah, it's 380 megs right now when you unzip it. The whole program.
That's pretty amazing.
And again, let's put that in perspective. Try to open up a 380 meg file in Photoshop.
Yeah. That's awesome, Carl. This is great. Yeah. So there's so much things that like I feel like the industry can learn from Blender, and it's all there. It's not like they hide it.
Right.
It's all open.
It's literally open source. You can go open it and be like, oh, that's how they did that.
That's how you do that? Like
yeah. But they can also like no, maybe they can't do that. Never mind. I was gonna say they can copy the code, but
they can't?
They can, but they have to release it as GPL. You have to Yeah.
Oh, because then you stole it. Okay.
Yeah.
Can people still how can they do that? Why can't they? That's weird. Why can't they can't copy the code, but they can like package Blender and call it Atomictron 7000 and sell it for their own means?
Try to do that. People try to do that. Like you can go on Amazon, I think, and at various times and find like Blender, the 3D software for sale, and then Ton has to tweet out, "This is not real. You don't need to pay for it."
But they don't tell them to stop, right?
That's a good question. I've never.
I've always been told that they can't.
Let's
stop
try
it.
that.
They can't stop it, but they just say, because some people I've had people come to me like libraries, like moms, and said like, I saw this program and I bought this program for $30 for my little boy, and I have to be like, ma'am, it's free.
Yeah.
You know, she's like, really? Like,
let's rebrand it. Let's rebrand it and name it like Stand Mixer.
Just call it the amazing 2D animation software. We'll call it Grease Pen.
Right.
2.0.
Just put an eye in front of it. That makes it awesome. Eye
blender.
Eye blender. Yeah.
You know that's the crazy thing about it is like there's so much stuff that Blender does really well that caught my eye. I still don't know how they put a full-fledged PBR engine inside of a full-fledged DCC modeling program. And
I mean, it makes you wonder what's in all the commercial downloads. Like, what is all that data that's coming with it?
A lot of tutorials and
it's a lot
bad
of
files that we never use.
Old legacy plugins and a lot of really bad outdated coding.
Yeah,
that's funny. Man, there's something you mentioned just to like. I wonder if the perception is true that people think that there's this community of hundreds of developers or thousands of developers that all contribute to Blender. And as far as I know, that's not true. We have tens of thousands of people contributing their opinions regularly.
Right.
Yo, how many? You're not gonna tell me there's like 16 developers somewhere between here and Sweden that's working on this, are you?
Well, as far as I know, the only consistent development that is approved and goes into trunk comes from the Blender Foundation, the people that they hire through the development fund, which I've donated to, like a lot of people donate to, CG Cookie donates to.
Yeah.
So they're paid developers by the fund, and they're not just like donating their time for free or anything, but it's only at any one time, like regularly on average, I would say like 5-6 people.
Shut up.
Dude, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
But what about the GitHub? Isn't the whole nature of GitHub, and maybe Carlos, this is one because it gets into programming stuff. Isn't the whole nature of GitHub and the official Blender GitHub is that people can like submit a bunch of different trunks or stacks of the engine. Say I went in, like I'm Charlie. I went in and I fixed the right click to be permanently left click, and I did all this like innovative code with it, and you submit your code on GitHub, and then it goes through a checks and balances of QA of other programmers. So yeah, that's pretty good, and it reaches to the top of the stack. And I thought the Blender Foundation then like sifts through some of those. So in that case, it'd be a lot more, right? But maybe the 5 or 6 are like mediating that. I thought that's why they had it on GitHub, and that's what because that's how a programmer like explained it to me at work. I don't know if that's how it works for Blender.
Yeah.
But like I thought that's where I was thinking like, the guys at the foundation are like, oh, did you see this new version of this? Let's download that and like check and run it through its paces, and then it gets put into development through the institute based on somebody actually doing really good, and then after it's been finessed, gets put in. But maybe that's not how it happens.
As far as everything has to filter back down to those developers.
Okay,
so
cool.
if people are doing small bug fixes, that is available to the community.
Mm-hmm.
But given how often they ask for help, for people to actually do something to contribute, makes me think that there isn't that many contributors.
Okay. Then they're even more badass than I thought.
And even if they did, generally speaking, what the for those of you guys that heard Kent say trunk, when you're coding, you start with it. Imagine a tree, right? And your main code base is the trunk of the tree. And anytime you get a new developer, they get their own branch.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yep,
so I'm able to, if I'm trying to be a developer for them, what I do is I get the credentials to check out my own branch. They give me a copy of the code. I'm able to add to it. And all the while, they're able to monitor what I'm doing. And so you download the code, and then you're able to do everything you want. And then when you save it, then what you do, you have to physically send it back to, well, not physically, I guess. You have to click the button to send it back to the review stage. And then I'm sure they have like almost like a board of directors that then does a code review, and then they make sure that everything is cool, and they make sure that you didn't add anything, like you do a special key combination and some wieners start jumping out. That's the kind of stuff that they want to make sure is not going to happen. Not that I've done anything like that ever in my life. I'm just saying it's a possibility that someone may do
find the right
things like that. So,
interesting.
That was well explained.
So then there's a code review. So then if I'm doing that, I then submit all of my changes to my branch, and then they do a code review. And then if everything is good, nothing crashes, and everything is what they're expecting to see, then they merge that into a testing branch, and then they let a bunch of people test. And if it passes all the tests, then you merge all that stuff. What I've done, what all these other guys, all of that tested code then gets merged into the trunk, which is, again, the main code base of the tree. That's generally how it works.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
That's very nicely explained.
Yeah. He's good at that.
I try. Yeah. I have my moments.
That's right. But
cool.
Yeah. So it is a pretty small team, I guess. It's been
that's good. That's even more amazing. Yeah, that's cool. One of the other things I wanted to talk about real quickly is like you guys came up on a pretty interesting milestone at CG Cookie, in relationship to you guys' store. Was it the Blender Market, right?
Yeah.
So what was that? Can you talk about that milestone, just in general, and what Blender Market is, and how that's been helping you guys in the community?
Yeah, the Blender Market. Well, as far as a specific milestone, it's just growing in a very encouraging way, and the fact that I think people are getting it more, and admittedly, it even took me a while to. I'm not like a part of that project officially. I'll contribute, review an item or something, but like that's another team. And I didn't really understand it at first. You know, it seemed like I was with the community, like it's an odd thing to make a commercial marketplace for Blender. But even I've started to like get it, and you see it becomes like this environment for me as a Blender artist to like create a storefront that is up to me how successful I want it to be. Like how good customer service do I want to offer? How valuable products do I want to make? And people are making their living like on Blender Market right now. So if like that's huge, that happened. I think in the past year or so. So the fact that that's happening is amazing. Like so I think people are starting to get why it's good for the community to have a commercial marketplace, because that spurns more dedicated development and better models to be created that we can all use, and it creates an ecosystem that is very healthy. And so as far as I know about the Blender market, it's so exciting to see that happen. I mean, I don't know if there's a conflict of interest, but I'm like, man, maybe I should create my own storefront in my free time and start doing Blender market stuff. But at least I'm looking forward to when it'll make business sense to spend some of my time like making some CG Cookie products and stuff. I would really like to do that. Yeah, it's a cool place. Is that the milestone you were kind of?
Yeah, I think it was. I think, and I don't want to throw out the wrong number, but I thought it was a certain amount of money that artists on the Blender market had hit. I thought this past year, which is a big mark that Wes is telling me about.
Well, there was a blog post about it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we have to pull that. We'll pull that up in a second and get that. But the biggest thing, like I said, we talked about this earlier, is in terms of like just. And I think CG Cookie was ahead of the curve on this with the Blender market, where it's just like Ken said, it's a place for you to, if you have a plugin that you want to develop. We've had artists like Jerry Perkins on the show in the past with his hard ops plugins, stuff like that. Young up and coming artists at the time like him, that really helped him and really blew him up in terms of like helping him have a residual income and stuff based off of the stuff he did in Blender. But at the same time, it's CG Cookie, I think, was ahead of the curve. I don't think they even realized this at the time, or maybe they did. But just like Unreal has an asset store and stuff like that like is really, really, important to people who use that. Just like Unity has an amazing asset store where like developers are constantly putting stuff up, and as a professional developer that uses Unity a lot, I don't know how many times we've grabbed stuff from the Unity store. It's like almost like what you do in terms of like when you're developing with Unity. Somebody out there has made a plugin, or another company that all they do is make plugins. There's plugins for like Unity that helps make your life easier in terms of what we need. We need a selection thing because that's not default, and that takes time to program and stuff like that. Right. Finding that at a good price. So we need a better answer to screen space anti-aliasing or something like that. Somebody's made something for that, or importing in OBJ sequences because we want to have more motion graphic style, like really cool animations that you would see, point level animations that you would see in like Cinema or Maya or something like that, using all these modifiers or MoGraph tools in Cinema 4D that you can't get into. You can't get in a game engine. The crazy like cloner type animations, all the type of stuff you might see in like a cool commercial or something like that. We're able to like bake stuff like that down using the OBJ sequence. Well, is made possible by a plugin called Mega Flyers on the Unity store that's been on there for a while. That can bring in a limbic and bring in different things well before the Unity itself decides to update their importers and bring in more of the things. Having better like AO and like ambient occlusion or like lighting, all these different things. Now the Blender market has that same thing. They have the same place to go. I think I just saw it last week and I told the guys about it. There's a really amazing fluid simulation program on Blender market that's like you pay like, and Jack knows this from working where he works, like you pay a lot of money for a fluid simulation like add-on for like the plugins, and this is like only like $80, but it looks really good. It's called Flip Fluids. It looks really, really good. Whereas you can use other plugin software for other things that are like thousands of dollars or more, so creating that ecosystem that Blender Market does is really big. And now we see it, now you see the Unities and other ones, and now everybody in the Blender community can be like, oh yeah, that's why they did that, Because it's just another way of servicing people that use that program,
right?
Because people can go to it and say, okay, I can grab that, that hard ops hard surface modeling plugin, because it just extends all the great modeling tools that's already in Blender. Or maybe you didn't know that these things were here, but somebody packaged them into a nice little package so that you can do that. So
yeah,
it's really interesting. Did you find that blog post?
Let's see.
Or whatever that number was.
Yeah,
number. I knew I should have texted.
I looked it up. The number's 3.
Got it. Oh yeah, there it is. Look at them sexy fluids.
One of my favorite things about the market is because it always offers the option to donate some of your sales percentage to the Blender Market.
Oh, that's awesome.
Because so many people do that. Like if you go to the Blender Fund page, we're one of the top contributors, or the Blender Market is one of the top contributors to the development fund, because the community is donating portions of their sales to Blender. So that's incredible, I think.
The artist gets a good portion back too. It's not like you guys take a crazy amount that way either. Yeah. Like they actually get what they're due, Whereas, Now
that we're watching this, because I want to take a second to talk about the incredible math that goes behind something as simple as water pouring over rocks.
Mm-hmm.
You guys know why Pixar continues to win all of these animation short Oscars, and every time they win, it's something that has to do with some character dancing in water? Because no one can do that. No one, and make it look real. So the fact that we're seeing these fluid dynamics happening, here's chocolate being poured over some coconuts. Are you serious right now? When I was in 3D, even the texture of water was
you just did. Everybody was like, water? No, skip it. Don't do it.
They don't do water. Yeah.
Water. People are like, man, get out of here with that fake ass water. That's why everyone wanted to do like streets and buildings and stuff like that, because no one wanted to do water.
Right.
Look at this.
Yo,
it's incredible.
No, yeah, I really liked how the Blender Market's coming along. They got some really good stuff.
Yep, that just happened. Yeah.
That tessellator too, the quadrilateral remesh. Say it one more time. You broke up, Carlos.
Can I get my Oscar now?
It's really good.
Dude is happy. If I figured out water like that, I'd be happy too.
Dude, I've been looking at it a lot because I really am gonna pick it up. Like I've been trying to contact the creator. I haven't got it. He hasn't responded yet, but like I've been trying to contact him because I really want to talk to him. I'm like, yo, so do you just dream in math? Like, because like I know other plugins like we use other things like X particles and other things, and they've gotten updates, and they're not cheap,
probably some old dude who can't make it through the night without having to go to the bathroom.
I guess I'll just code a little bit.
I would say I figured it out. I might as well code it. I'm up.
Oh my word!
Sounds great. No. So that's cool. The Blender Markets, check it out too for those guys looking into that. It's just a great way to support the artists. Another way that CG Cookie helps support artists in the Blender community. And it makes Blender even more legitimate. Like if you have a place where you can find a bunch of different stuff, then like it's a little bit easier as you're going through your production. So cool.
Absolutely.
All right, Jack. It's that time.
At the time. Mm-hmm.
Here they come, yo. Here they come. Here they come. This or that. This or that. This or that. This or that. This or that.
Kent Trammel, or dare I say Trammel?
This or that. Trammel or Trammel.
Yeah, Trammel or Trammel.
Play a little game with us. Here we go.
All
right. So, would you rather be working on movies or teaching?
Oh my gosh.
Ooh. Come on.
Oh man. If the movie's good.
Yo.
God, Judgy. You're trying to get your first break, son.
I'll probably say teaching because the handful of people who cared that my name was in the credits of a movie, it wasn't that big of a deal compared to the people that I see actually learn and go from nothing to making stuff or getting their first job, their first freelance thing.
Get their name in the movie.
Yeah, exactly. That it's hard to. That's really rewarding, especially when they say you're part of the reason.
Oh, that's really good. Yeah.
Very cool. All right. Speaking of work, would you rather work from home or work in an office?
Oh my gosh, I didn't expect to be stumped by every question, but
yeah, we go in here.
So there's so much good about working from home. Family's in the next room. I get to see my kids grow up before my eyes. Good stuff. Flexibility. But man, there's nowhere to go when you have to record a tutorial and everybody's crying and screaming. So it depends on the day. A lot of times I wish I had an office, but there's a lot of good about being remote too.
Yeah, I hear you. All right. I want to further dive into your relationship with your brother. Would you rather? Do you feel your relationship? No. How do I say it?
Where's it going?
Here's two movies: Twins or Step Brothers.
Step Brothers.
That is a good movie.
Did you touch my drum set?
That's my pick too. But I'm not dead.
Gosh, that is a good one. Man.
All right. This came up a couple times during our conversation. So when you are on your computer and you want to select something, would you rather right click or left click?
Not stumped by that one. I'm a left click person.
You better be.
Yeah. And the camp is bigger than you think. I always thought right click was bigger in the Blender community, but there are some key users that do left click. So I'm all right with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And since you are pretty big in the Blender community, would you rather have a Black & Decker or a Vitamix?
Oh my gosh. Black & Decker?
Hey, let me. This is the first time in the history of this show I have to correct someone. The only reason you said Black & Decker is because you haven't experienced the Vitamix.
That's right. That is right.
Okay.
Yo, y'all really got that? Y'all really getting y'all bag with the Blender.
I'm gonna back up that Vitamix.
I've never used a Vitamix.
Oh, you haven't?
I have not.
You're gonna learn today.
Oh, that's good.
You can chop up cinder blocks in that bad boy.
Oh yeah, you can.
You know those simulations we were showing you?
Yeah.
All
Like water all day, huh?
I'm gonna blend you some water.
Jack is like, it's like water. Blend it up all day.
Okay, so this is this is the magic of a Vitamix.
Okay.
If you put something cold and you spin it, it gets colder. You put something hot and you spin it, it gets hotter.
You talking from a
Wait,
what?
What?
Jack, you better tell them something.
Hey, all I know is it's got an extra high setting and you can cook soup in that bad boy.
Are you serious?
That
I
will
don't know.
melt cheese.
Is it like is this an expensive like thing to buy or something?
Yeah, they're pretty pricey, but oh man, well worth it.
Yeah.
You're spinning something so fast that you're cooking it.
Hey, Charlie, I churn my own butter in 5 minutes.
Make some butter in there.
Why does it sound like the weirdest reality infomercial ever?
Well, because it deserves it.
A rabbit jumps out because it's magic.
Yeah, I wish I could change my answer. Can I?
No. You're taking this ass weapon.
I've never heard of this Vitamix thing. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. Legit. Anyway, yeah, it's really good. And I legit make my own butter in my Vitamix.
Yep. Wow.
Yeah. And
I'm impressed.
Soup and protein powder, and I mean,
Sorbet.
if you like swearing, you can probably cut your toenails with this bad boy. You just got to be careful.
Somebody said TMI in the chat.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for playing this or that.
Hey,
which then brings us to.
Sorry, what was that last comment there?
Which then brings us.
No, I heard you. It's fine.
Hey, if you just watching us in different countries for playing this jam. Inspiration. All right. So since we were talking 3D stuff, and let me point out, we lost a legend this week.
We did.
Everyone, if you don't know who Stan Lee is, you're probably not even born yet. But
you're gonna learn today.
We lost Stan Lee this week, and
he had a good run.
Hey,
everyone. He was 95 years old.
95.
He ran till the brakes wore off. Anyway, so this young man, Reyes, did this piece that attracted my attention. However, this has nothing to do with Stan Lee, but it's a really cool Keanu Reeves model.
Yeah.
Right? But this is the one that caught my attention. This one.
That's cool.
And it's cool. Spider-Man and Daredevil hanging out, kicking ass and taking names.
Gosh, that's good.
And yeah, I don't know what he's using.
So ZBrush and Maya.
Maya. There you go, Maya. So yeah, those couple of models really did
good stylization.
Yeah.
Well, look, he's got his blender balls in there.
Whoa.
Wait, is that looks like ZBrush?
Yeah,
that's what are those called, Charlie? Z-spheres.
Z-spheres. So yeah,
which is a crazy way of looking at it. I don't even know.
Here's another really good one of the Spider-Man.
Yeah, that looks good.
I like the background too.
Right.
Awesome.
Couple here that this pose is just really hilarious. And isn't there a Spider Universe cartoon coming out?
Yep.
Yeah, there's a full movie that's done in this hybrid 2D 3D style that's super over the top. Great.
He's got the Joker action.
Joaquin Phoenix Joker, it looks like.
Yeah.
Wow.
There was another one that I saw that I just wanted to make sure that
I'm still on the fence about Joaquin Phoenix's Joker.
Oh, here we go.
Just gonna be honest.
Oh wow.
I see Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
I see Zorro.
Not Indiana Jones. I don't know what's going on.
Oh yeah. Anyway, I love his style. And the fact that he delivers it so well in 3D is really well done. So again, link in the show notes, but dude's name is Giancarlo Reyes.
Good one.
And his thing is a little awkward to spell. So you'll just have to check out the show notes.
Nice.
So there.
Charlington. Chuck.
Yes. Let me pull it up.
Get it in your life.
Yep. I'm going to pull this up for you. Having technical difficulties, but here, I got it. Got something a little different this week. I'm going to butcher this dude's name. Filippo Ubertino or whatever his name is. From Italy. He's a concept artist that would concept art this time. What struck me is really cool about this artist was, first of all, he has really amazing looking automotive stuff. So you guys like the process. So I'm going to show you the process of one. Oh, no, I'm not. Pull it back. Come on, where is that? There it is. There it is. So, like, it's really cool. He goes from the drawing all the way up, and he's rendering these things out. So it's not 3D. It's really good Photoshop renderings of these really high-tech looking cars.
Nice.
So see that? This looks really good. I was like, is this 3D? I still look at it when I look at the 2D.
Yeah, he's got those gradients down.
But the gradients, yeah. So that's what hit me was like, all right, he drew all this stuff, but then like his lighting is just on point, in terms of like the finished piece. So that was awesome. So that's what brought me into this guy's page. But then I come to find out, like, so then he does a bunch of different colors or whatever. But then I go back to his main page, and he's a really cool concept artist, just like some different, like, I've seen this trend of like putting a robot in these like really puffy, like hip hop inspired like coats, down coats, which I think is interesting. But this guy's rendering skills are really good. Notice like on this process one here where he starts to get all the highlights and stuff off all the bevels and stuff. Like, how long did this take?
But,
so
I mean, if you're a beginning artist and you're trying to figure out Photoshop, don't be overwhelmed with this. This is just like a drop shadow, little drop shadow plugin thing, and you're fine.
Yeah.
a little glowing edges.
This is amazing. Keep going. So anyway, I'm just looking at a bunch of different things. So he has a bunch of different block out stuff. Look, he uses a little bit of ZBrush. So he blocks out a lot of stuff in ZBrush too. So he's a accomplished character artist too. And a lot of times they're like with the concept artists nowadays, especially for a film, they're like these weird, amazing hybrids where they know a lot of 3D or know just enough for like what they needed to do to kick out these shapes and like get these forms so that journalists can go in there and like make some badass stuff. So this guy has a lot of good stuff. We'll have the link in the show notes, but he does a lot of that futuristic stuff and like he has a couple of vignettes and stuff, but like some of his intricate details in terms of like these robots and cool coats, as I like to call it, is amazing,
why are robots wearing coats? Are they getting cold?
Yeah, I mean that steel gets shivery and cold, Zach. Yeah, so like he has some really cool things here. Yeah, so look at that. So it's also moving, just so you know, it's like the evolution of a concept artist. I feel like they're becoming more and more like really good 3D artists that can draw really well, which is cool from that aspect. So yeah, so check him out, Filippo Ubertino. He's amazing. Get him in your life. Check him out.
Nicely done, sir.
All right. So we briefly mentioned this earlier in the show. I have no idea how to say this guy's name. Jama.
It's Jama. Badass.
Okay, Jama, you're a bev. He's worked on some films maybe you've heard of, such as Jurassic Fallen Kingdom as a concept artist. He does some 3D, some 2D, some all around cool stuff. It's got some good textures, but when it comes to concept artists, you've seen that all before. But what we're here for is this grease pencil madness. Stuff was done in Blender, and what we were talking about with the grease pencil. So he didn't provide a turnaround on that.
Oh, I was gonna say, did he do storyboarding in Blender?
So here's a little process. See, he does a little block out model, and then he just draws right on top of it to get the details.
Damn.
John was one of those good dudes, just like master perspective.
And then suddenly he's moving around his 2D scene. Because that's how grease pencil works.
Damn, son.
Yeah.
Oh, let's see. Let's find a good composition. Let me change my drawing real quick.
This one right here is ridiculous when he does these. Dude.
He's got some animated cycles in there. Oh, let me just find a different position.
And then draw my detailed drawing. So, like it's Photoshop. Yeah.
So that one's pretty cool. But then there's this cool thing. Now this one. All right. So here's some modeling / grease pencil combo.
Yes.
So he builds these skeleton. He draws out this skeleton. Little sketchy sketch. Looking cool. And then bam, 3D. Move it around. Like he straight up just painted like a 3D model rig from just like a drawing.
And that's what I don't get, because I've seen this one too. Like, what is that render? Like, is it render? Is he just saying render everything to like spline?
Yeah,
like,
it's converted. Yeah, it converts it. It converts it into usable. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yep.
See, so look at because here this is actually a good frame, because this is his drawing, his little doodle, the black one, and then the middle one he's got remember what were they called in Maya? Blob meshes. So you can actually see the strokes here. He's got the tolerance turned down pretty low, so you can see the separation, and then the more you go up, the more it gets like a solid piece of geo. So you actually have control over it, almost like a particle.
Awesome.
Yeah. He's got a great Blender conference talk from just a couple weeks ago on YouTube.
Look at this drawing grass, just like put down some grass. Whole forest is made.
And he's nuts.
And Gemma really got into it, because Gemma's like Kent was saying before, like those like legit professional artists that are moving over.
Yeah.
And starting to use Blender, because he's worked on a lot of like films as a concept artist. Like,
yeah, I mean, you guys starting out, don't be intimidated by this. This is just some filters. So
yeah, this is just a lens flare.
This doesn't really take that much skill. It's just Blender.
Because he did a bunch of stuff with Ghost in the Shell.
But in case you forgot, he draws too. Remember that, and he worked on
really well.
This is cool. This is really cool to me, because I had this maquette sitting like 2 feet from my desk for like 2 years. It was really? It's kind of weird and creepy to look at. I would like see it out of the corner of my eye with this thing.
You have it on your desk?
It was like 2 desks down, so the animators could go look at it.
Yeah, Gemma's really
good. So check. I mean, it's just a wide range of stuff. Everything from robot and automotive stuff to 2D drawings to vehicle to 3D to this cool grease pencil stuff. I mean, he's doing it all.
So good.
Just doing it all. So we'll just try. It's just JAMA. He's easy to find. I guess there's only one of them. So
yeah. It's good. Good job, Jack. It's a good pick.
Yeah, that was a good one.
All right. Do we need help sharing the final one? I think Carlos is frozen, so let me do it.
Oh, he is.
I think we lost him, but that's okay. I can share it. So.
Oh, cool.
All right, you can go ahead and introduce. We've got Leonardo Braz.
Yeah, I discovered him like this week sometime, and I always get a kick out of like he's a Blender artist. So as far as I've checked, all of these are done with Blender, and incredible realism. Like for example, right there, just I don't know if he simulated the water or if he sculpted it, but either way, just unbelievable. And I think that's based. Someone who tweeted that said it was based on like a famous painting or something, but I didn't recognize it. So he's just, this guy is an artist that has a variety that you don't always see. Usually, you know,
so cool.
Oh, that's sick.
Right.
That's
Like
cool.
he's got the leftover jam in there and the used up wrappers and stuff.
The amount of detail and the time that like we know he put into it is just inspirational.
Yo, look at the density along this edge.
Yeah.
That might have been a little overkill.
Right.
No, it's needed, Jack.
I mean, you know, I'm not going to complain about how awesome his final render looks, but you know, I think I spotted some interpenetration going on here. What's going on, buddy?
Oh, no.
What's happening right there? You got
turn him off. Turn him off. Not
he's worthless. No, this is a great image. This is
right.
Great image, yeah.
Right. And he does like architecture. He does like still lifes, character work, like product rendering. He's just has a variety, all of which is super high quality that you don't usually see people do all of that at this quality. So for me, for my type of 3D artist, what inspires me, he's right at top of the list. Like this gets me going.
Yo, that's cool. That's cute.
That's dope.
He's one of the ones. If someone questioned me, well, is Blender any good? I would just yo, go look at this guy and come back and talk to me.
That's awesome. This is really pretty.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I love that he always shows his work.
Right, right.
His 5th grade math teacher told him,
And he's
show your work.
sculpting in Blender too. Like it's just
Yeah. Good stuff. Well, thanks for bringing that up.
great.
Very good stuff.
Yo, you know
Cool.
a lot of students that do still lives and stuff. Like they should take notes with this guy because like I love the like real still life, like the dirty still life. You know, like
Yeah, exactly.
He gets all the textures right. He's got everything from dirty up to like glossy to that weird film that's on grapes to, you know.
Which makes you worry, how nasty is his house? Because that is super accurate.
he's like, hey, nobody move anything right now. Let me take this picture real quick.
I mean, here's his house. Look, he's living it. He's a Blender artist. He's living in filth.
Really good.
I love it. Look, that's a crazy picture. Oh, he's using substance.
Like, I don't have time to clean. I'm
he's-
blending.
Nice.
He is using substance.
Very cool.
Good.
That's
Great pick, man. I'm gonna
awesome.
go back and look through all this stuff myself.
All the gears and stuff in that robot. Fun.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Cool.
So Kent, if people want to follow you in social media land, is that a possibility?
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm pretty much only active on Twitter, and that's at KH Trammel. And yeah, I don't really do Facebook too much, but Twitter is the one. And then ArtStation is like my primary portfolio. And otherwise, CG Cookie, I'm there every day. So
Awesome. Thanks for taking time. I know you're on the East Coast, and
this has been fun.
it's super late out there, but
It's
we
been a lot
really
of fun.
do appreciate it. And when you see Wes, you tell him he still owes me lunch.
Okay. Can definitely do that.
He's gonna be like, "What the hell is he talking about?" I'm like, "Oh no."
Well, thank you for having me on. It really was a blast talking with you guys, meeting you. So thank you.
Cool. Yeah, we'll figure out how to get you back on.
Yeah. Don't have to twist my arm too hard.
Where people can they find you?
Yeah, you can find me in a couple different places. You can find me at my website, which is carlcollector.com. That's Charlie B. Williams. You can find me on Instagram, CharlieBW3. Almighty Pinterest. I have a bunch of cool stuff to look at that. CharlieBW3. Check it out. Get it in your life.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. How about you, Jack?
You can find me at sketchbookjack.com and sketchbookjack on Instagram and a couple of other places.
Instagrams.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. And I'm Carlos. You can find me at coconutjustice.com, Coconut Justice everywhere else. And this is Sketch Zone Podcast, episode 163. Woo!
Right.
Yeah.
You can go to sketch.zone. We have links to everywhere we are: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And if you're on Instagram and you want to do participate with the fun prompt, which this week is a careless taxidermist in a gingerbread house in a Bill Watterson style. Go ahead and tag us, and we will share it on the show, like we did mine, because I was the only one to do it this week.
It's all good. I think we get some more next week.
No judging. No judging.
No judging, but I gotta get on that.
I'm just saying it's lonely over here in the land of perfection. Hey, again, if you're able to catch up to us, we like to be on live on YouTube every Thursday night. Come out and hang out with us. You see, we interact with the folks that are in the chat. And if you are watching on YouTube, the subscribe button is down here somewhere. So go ahead and click on that. And if you're watching on Twitch, the button is up there. So go ahead and click on that. And I know this works on YouTube. If you click that little bell that's next to the subscribe button, every time we go live, you get alerted.
Ding dong.
You get to come harass us. I mean, win-win. You draw, you harass, we all win. Yeah. But if you can't watch us live, you can go ahead and catch up to us on Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play Music, and, of course, good old iTunes.
Yeah.
I think that's it for us. We're not going to be here next weekend because we have the holiday.
Oh.
He's saying that we won't be on next week because it's a holiday here in the States.
Yes. But.
Oh, yeah.
Right after that.
Bad internet. But after that.
And Carlos is turning into a cyborg, so he's going to retire.
Yeah, it's got to recharge.
Burp. Burp.
All right.
All right, guys.
Bye, guys.
Thanks.
See ya. Have a good weekend. Happy
Bye.
Thanksgiving, guys. See ya.
And
out. See it. It still looks live.
It does look live.
Bye-bye.
Come on, son.
Bye.
Come on, son.
Longest exit.
Yo, this is awesome. Yo.
I clicked the button. It's not quitting. Okay, this is
This never happened.
Stop broadcast.
Why won't let you stop?
Oh my god, that's how bad the internet is so bad we can't quit.
Yeah, is it still live for real? That's hilarious.
I think so.
You might have to like log. Come back. See you guys.
All right.
Nope.
He's gone.
He's gone, but it still says live. Is it still live on YouTube? Let's check it. It's like after party. That's weird. Oh yeah, it still says live. Do.
Dun, dun, dun.
And now it's the after show. That's interesting.
Guess we're just gonna have to hang up.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Well, okay then.
All right. All right, kid.
All right. Goodbye.
This is the most awkward exit ever.
This is the awkward ever in the history of the show. We've never done this.
YouTube won't let us stop.
It loves us that much.
All right. Goodbye.
Well, all right. Good night, all.
All right. See you guys.
See ya.
Talk to you soon.